Good morning, beautiful people. It is Monday, August 24th, 2020, and we have a lot to talk about now that we're back here in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, in our home studio. From the wedding to the honeymoon to last week's fight week, we've been traveling the globe, but it's nice to be back home. All the boys are here. At Nick Moraldo is here. At Tone Diggs is here. At Ty Schmidt is here. Jason McAfee drove a truck from Orlando to Indianapolis overnight. He is here. Sitting shotgun in that car was the Dawn at Viva La Zito. At Evan Foxy's here, and our intern, Mr. Mitt, who I believe his internship run, I think it was supposed to end like a month ago. Still coming around, though. I appreciate it. No idea if he's still in school, so who knows if this is an internship or just a potential squatter. But, ladies and gentlemen, our guy Mitt, he'll be on the phones. 1-833-622-3331. I believe we will get to a couple phone calls today because we haven't been able to for a few weeks, so it'd be nice to hear a voice of the people. On the couch, at Boston Connors here, the Celtics with a clean sweep of the Sixers. They trusted the process. The process failed them. But for the Celtics, you guys are in a good spot. Now you guys take on
the Toronto Raptors
in round 2, which is interesting because Kawhi won a championship for the Toronto Raptors. He got out of town, went to the Clippers. They might not make it out of round 1. Here's the Raptors now in round 2 without Kawhi going on a run. And the Celtics, I mean, everybody's saying they are the most questioned team in the playoffs left. They are probably the ones that are going to get the doors beat off.
Whoa, no one's saying that. I haven't heard that once. No, the internet doesn't know.
I didn't say that.
I haven't heard that once.
I've been focused all weekend. Obviously, we'll talk about what happened on Saturday night at NXT TakeOver 30. A lot went down. I got flipped on my head at one point, but I scrolled through the internet, NBA Twitter a little bit, and they're like, if there's one weak team that's left right now, it would be the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, no, I don't think I saw that. I think whoever said that was probably wrong. Probably the Jazz are the weak team left. But hey, I digress. We'll see what happens in the second round. One of the better playoff matchups that we got in the second round.
The Bruins are 1-0 in the playoffs. The Boston Celtics had a clean sweep there in round 2.
Bruins are Boston sports in the playoffs haven't lost in like 15 days, I don't think. It's a good time to be alive.
And Cam Newton is vibing up there in New England. And New England somehow, even though being one of the closest teams to said lab that had a massive mistake, wasn't a part of the massive COVID scandal that was going down in New Jersey with the NFL testing, which we'll also talk about today. 77 players got false positives, all from one New Jersey lab. I have a big question for you. Will conspiracy fodder find any of that type of thing happening? Yes. Somehow the Patriots aren't a part of it. What are the Patriots doing? Well, they're obviously sending in somebody with COVID who's testing all these teams. They're on all these things, and now we got false positives everywhere. That's a big deal, though. That has to get figured out. Now, the lab came out with an entire statement. It was like a diatribe, basically, about how they found some inconsistent or irregularities in the testing, blah, blah, blah. We found it. It was an isolating incident. Now we move on. And I bet the NFL's like, oh, that's just what we do? We just move on from that? How do we know that isn't going to happen on a Friday or a Saturday? And 77 players are out, or coaches, too, not just players, 77 coaches, players, anything like that. How do we figure this out? I don't think anybody knows. They're just hoping that Yale saliva test that's supposed to come into town is much more accurate than whatever they're doing now. What up there?
I assume the NFL, when when the lab was like, oh, we're just going to move on for this, the NFL's like, well, we're probably just going to move on from you handling our testing.
But I don't know if that's possible because I think there's only like 3 or 4 companies that oversee all those labs, basically. So like there's it's a very interesting. I don't know how many different places
big labs.
I don't know how many people you can tell to go fornicate themselves in the lab business because I think they're all kind of connected. I believe all of them are connected. So you can't just be like, well, you're cool. I don't think you can do that with the lab business. I'll be intrigued to see how they figure that out. Also joining us on the couch, a man who will be EP of this show starting September 7th, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mansur.
To your point, Pat, you got 2.5 weeks to figure it out, and there are only so many reputable names in the game. You can't put the NFL season in jeopardy. You got 2.5 weeks. Figure it out.
Well, the issue with this all is there's always going to be some angle that fans are going to take, like, oh, well, who set this up? Who did it? Because you can't, in 2020, you can't help but think if something bad happens, you're like, Well, who did it? And everybody's going to point directly to that city right there, no matter what's going to happen until something happens to them. But let's say all three of these, whoever the three labs are, let's say all three of them happen to have an issue. Then what? The NFL has to be stopped for a couple of weeks and it's all false positives. I mean, presumed negative is the new term up in Detroit because Matt Stafford's family's life was changed because of a false positive. There's a lot to deal with. They're going to have to juggle it. But the NBA is making it happen. The NHL is making it happen. Still, Major League Baseball is making it happen. They had a couple early outbreaks, a couple big news, but I haven't really heard much about that since. Maybe because nobody's talking about baseball, but I would assume if there was another massive COVID outbreak, people would be talking about baseball again. So people are making it happen. The NFL will make it happen, but this weekend, it's preseason for these labs too. Hey, it's preseason for these labs too. 1 year ago today is the day that Andrew Luck decided to retire from the game of football. He was on his way to be a starter for the Indianapolis Colts. And for the second time in 3 years, Colts fans found out that they didn't have a once-in-a-generation quarterback starting for them that season. They were going to have somebody else. A couple years before that, Jacoby Brissett was literally brought in like 8 days before the season was starting and told he was a starter because Andrew Luck was hurt. Then now a year ago, he retires, and Jacoby Brissett's now the starter with 2 weeks to go before the season starts. There's a lot of questions on why Andrew Luck retired. There's a lot of questions on how it came to be that in the middle or fourth quarter of a preseason game, Adam Schefter tweet sends a couple drunk Colts fans into an angry mob, like boo, yell, which by the way, the Colts fans got attacked for. I don't think that was fair. I mean, if you're at the fourth quarter of a preseason game and you're still there, you are probably the most diehard Colts fan in the history of Colts. And yeah, they should have immediately thought about how much Andrew Luck was a warrior for the Colts and how much pain and injuries he battled through and how he was retiring for himself. I agree. Hindsight's always 50-50. Cam Newton told us that. But if you think about in that moment, these Colts fans reading an Adam Schefter tweet that says their once-in-a-generation quarterback was once again not going to be their starter. And oh, by the way, he's never playing football again. You could see how some drunk Colts fans would be like, oh, boo that man.
That stinks.
And then, by the way, that sound bite obviously gets sent everywhere because that's the last time Andrew's walking off that field. He's getting booed. It's like, oh, that's a terrible situation. But the fact that it got out before Andrew could leak it or say it himself, I would say is the biggest problem of them all. So everybody was trying to point at the Colts fans, which you can understand where their anger is coming from. I don't think they should have booed him. Now, I got a chance to see, obviously, plane rides home with him wrapped up and iced up, treatment, him going through everything. I mean, Andrew took a lot of massive hits. Obviously, it made him retire early, but that reaction from the Colts fans was one that so many people went after Colts fans for, and it's like, for the second time in 3 years, they thought they had a guy who was the guy in Andrew Luck. He's gone now forever. And by the way, people talk still to this day. Andrew has not been seen from, by the way. He retires. He says, hey, there's a decision I'm making. I don't know if it was a decision he made before the situation popped up that he got back in with injuries. I don't know if he said, if I ever get into this situation again, I'm retiring. And that's why he's such at ease with it, because retiring is not an easy thing. Or if that literally was, he woke up and was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to retire. So I would assume it was calculated because Andrew Luck's a super smart guy. But he's a guy who was retired and just literally rode off into the sunset. I've heard nothing from him. Obviously, he and I weren't like best friends. I accidentally tweeted a lot of his thigh and thing out like that, and we weren't very similar humans. I think we had a lot of respect for each other, obviously. I have not talked to him. I think Hasselbeck has talked to him, and I'm always like, Hasselbeck, like, is he all right? They're like, yeah, loving his life, having a great time. It's like, well, good for him then. I'm incredibly happy for him. But 1 year ago today, the NFL was rattled by one Adam Schefter tweet in the fourth quarter of a preseason game.
And I don't know if it's because we live here or you're a future Ring of Honor member for the Colts.
I don't know if that's, there's a lot of names that need to go up there before me.
But I believe it's a big enough story where it's a where were you when you heard about it situation.
So I was there. I had a couple, you were at because they were playing the Bears.
I was at the game. A great night.
I will tell you, too, the boos did not do it justice in the actual stadium. It was a lot louder. It was crazy.
Well, I believe the video, now, I don't want to say that any media would do what the WWE has done for a long time and heighten something, but it sure sounded like that video of the boo. I mean, as that video was released, like through the week as people were playing it, it was like that boo got louder and louder and louder.
Added their own tracks.
It was like, listen to the background here as Andrew Luck, a man who's had surgeries on blah, 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 and his battle for the Colts fans, gets booed off his last walk of the field. And they go real quiet, and it's like, it was a wild scene, wild scene. And I got a couple texts from some local writers that wanted me to do the "Where were you" thing, and I didn't want to buy into it. I was like, I don't want Andrew to get mad.
Yeah.
Because I don't want Andrew to get mad because, by the way, I retired young. Now, granted, I knew I was doing it about 3/4 of the way through the season. So as soon as the season ended, I knew that I was going to be gone. But I think if somebody comes to the decision that they don't want to play anymore, it's like you probably shouldn't. Like that's one of those things where if you think you shouldn't be playing, you probably shouldn't be playing. And now the timing was terrible. I think even Andrew, I would assume now would tell you that he wishes that it wasn't the timing it was because he didn't help his team and set up. That's not a good time to lose your starting quarterback. But for Andrew Luck, it's like, hey, that's a situation that came up and get up. I'm happy for him. I'm very happy for him. But boy, it was quite a turn of events very quickly for old Chris Ballard too. Chris Ballard had to be like, now listen, I'm happy for you. Okay, I am happy for you. This is your. we gotta. All right, let's bring in horror then. I guess we'll bring in horror.
Bring him back.
I mean, granted, our entire offseason was shaped around Andrew Luck being our starting quarterback, and now here we are, 2 weeks before the regular season starts. But hey, I'm happy for it because Chris is such a good gentleman. And by the way, if you've ever been in there, when a guy decides to retire, like that's a cool thing. Like it's like congratulate. It's almost like a congratulations. Now you never think it's forever. You never think anybody's retirement is forever. You're always like, maybe he'll come back, or whatever. I said, though, with Andrew, I feel like this is going to be forever. Like, I feel like he's retiring and this one's going to be forever because of how it happened. Like, if he was to come back, and Andrew is a good dude, nice guy, happy guy. I think everybody knows that. I think because of how it went down 14 days before the season or whatever, I don't think Andrew will ever come back because he wouldn't want to make people feel terrible. Now, a lot of people think he's going to come back because he still has, another 20 years of football if he really wants it, especially if he goes away for a couple of years like Gronk has, and everybody said, well, he found his love for the game again, his back feels good, like it was like a good refresher course, maybe he'll come back, but it's just the way it went down. I'm not 100% sure he'll ever, I think he's just too nice of a guy. I think he would feel terrible. I guess he still lives in Indianapolis too. He probably has houses other places, has a kid. I mean, he's living his best life. But you're right. Here in Indianapolis, it was a big, where were you when it happened? And I got asked by a lot of people, like, hey, you remember where you were when you retired or whatever? And I was like, I don't. I mean, I have a lot of things happen in my life. I apologize. But I do remember the internet. I was on the internet whenever that happened. What was he?
Do you think the game of football will ever see Andrew Luck again? Like coaching wise, was he like a person that would help like people under him?
No, I don't. Well, you would.
Or like coaching wise.
Geez,
not helping,
the way you just phrased that question was.
Well, those buildings, right?
No, yeah, but Andrew was a guy that was nice to everybody. So like he was nice to everybody, too nice. I thought he was too nice, to be honest with you. And I think Vinatieri and I had that conversation a lot because we go from Peyton, who's a very nice guy. Like, let's not get crazy, but when it came to like football and executing, all those greats have that little bit of like accountability expectation from people that can come off as a little bit. Or I would assume Tom Brady's like that. I'm not 100% sure, but anybody that's at that top, there's an accountability that they expect from people that they're not scared to say like, hey, you got to tighten up or we need this from you. I don't know if Andrew ever had that. Now, I wasn't in private conversations that he had with people, but I always wanted him to be like more of a hole of the ass. Like I was always like, oh, we need you to be a little bit mean. I never said it to him because it's not my job to go up to Andrew Luck, first pick of the draft, and be like, hey, I think you need to be meaner.
Toughen up.
Like, that's not for me.
Together.
But he was like too nice of a guy, I thought. And by the way, doing that, I think it got him killed a lot. Like I think instead of like I think somebody else seeing that should have went to an offensive lineman and said like, hey, you see that guy back there? Like, if you don't block anybody, that guy doesn't get to do his thing. Now, granted, he might hold on to the ball too long. There's a lot of things to talk about whenever sacks happen and all that stuff. But if we can keep that guy alive, we're all going to get much happier in our lives, I think. And that was something that you would see a lot of other guys do, like, hey, I need you to do this, need you to do this. And Andrew was such a nice guy. And he might have done it in a different fashion. Like, he might have done it a little privately, so I didn't see it. But, man, what a player. I think the game will miss him for sure. I'm not 100% sure he'll ever come back.
Was he so nice to the point where, like, the locker room was happy for him, or were they like...
Oh, yeah. Like, anything Andrew did, it was like watching, like your little brother almost. I was like, oh, good for him. Like, oh, I'm happy for him. Like, whenever he would come back, like, there was very rare moments where he would, like, really show real emotion, too. He was always, like, the consummate professional, but then whenever he got all jacked up, it was like, okay, hey, let's go, Andrew. He was born for the NFL. He was being compared to John Elway, like his 8th grade or something like that. I mean, he's just That's a lot of pressure, by the way, to put on a guy, and he lived up to it. Now, granted, he retired for whatever reason. I don't think anybody's known, right? I don't think it's ever come out like the exact reason why he
Didn't
retired.
he just say he kind of fell out of love with football because he
Rehab.
Yeah,
I
it was
think it was a
rehabbing
rehab.
so much he didn't get to do the stuff that like made him love the game pretty much.
He didn't want to get back into the cycle of wake up, rehab, blah, 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 which, by the way, rehab is it doesn't get talked about enough. You always hear about people coming back from surgery and everything like that. Rehab is not fun. Like it is, you have to have athletic trainers and physical therapists that are like kind of funny, by the way. And the reason why that is a massive like trait that I would assume physical therapists and athletic trainers talk about having to have is because the humans that you're working on are just, they are going through. You have to reteach your leg how to walk again after just a simple knee surgery. You got to rebring your muscle, and then there's scraping of scar tissue. It is just a nightmare. And I think that was the reason that was initially given. And like for instance, for me, I was going to stare down another knee surgery and another rehab. I hated it. That was obviously a massive part of it. I'm like, I'm getting surgeries after every single season here because, and a lot of people wondered why I could wrestle, but I couldn't punt a ball. Every time I punted, my knee would hyperextend, you see, because the quad was too strong for said joint of the knee. Since I've been kicking balls for so long, the knee kind of got to the point where it couldn't keep up with my leg speed. So every time I would punt, my knee would hyperextend, okay? So that's why you could see me shoot basketball, I can run, I can do all that. But the act of punting was something that really aggravated my knee because I would hyperextend because you're trying to get leg lock every single time you hit a ball. That's like basically like, you want leg lock for the maximum power. So staring down another rehab, staring down another surgery, knowing that there'd probably be more on the horizon was definitely a massive factor in my retirement. But then there's all these other outlying things where you like just start like kind of piecing in like, well, I don't like coming to work for said guy anymore. Add that in there. I have my best game and we lose. Am I allowed to be happy? No, I'm not allowed to be. Well, let's add that in there. Oh, man, I'm making a lot of money off the field doing things I really enjoy. I'm having a lot of fun. Do I still want to? You add that in there. So I would want to know what all those are for Andrew. You know, like I would want to know what all those things, like what were some things that could have changed aside from just the rehab that he would have been like, yeah, I'll stick around. I don't know. That's a conversation for him to have one day with somebody who I'll be excited to listen to it, to be honest.
Do you think part of it was that he felt like he wouldn't be able to do the same things he did previously, like with his shoulder and everything? He's like, I'm not going to be the same player that I was a couple years ago.
I don't know. I don't know. These are things that I would like. Hey, these are things that I would, as somebody that got to watch him work, you know, and play and dominate games that he shouldn't, and take a team that wasn't as good as it was to places that it should have went. I would like to know why he, like, just as a fan of football and his teammate, like, I retired but I couldn't determine the outcome of games. Like, and I didn't get $100 and some million. I would like to know why you. I think we all will. And when that conversation happens, people will enjoy the hell out of it. 16 minutes after the hour, we got to get to a break. On the other side, I had a massive debut this weekend. Big old debut. NXT TakeOver 30. Me and Adam Cole didn't get the outcome, obviously, that we're looking for.
No.
And aside from that match, by the way, I'm still undefeated, but we'll talk about it all. On the other side, also, Earl Thomas, cut from the Baltimore Ravens seven time, act like I did that 7-time Pro Bowler, is now on the market. Is he going to Dallas? Everybody assumes that's where he's headed. At one point, he walked in the locker room as a Seattle Seahawk and said, please get me off of this terrible team. Now he has a chance to go there. Will Jerry Jones, who's written a check for everybody but his quarterback, sign Earl Thomas? Plus, Luka Doncic is the man. Lot to talk about. This is the Pat McAfee Show, Monday, August 24th. For 15 seconds before I hit the anvil. I've been trying to time myself out for 15 seconds. I've never spoken for 15 seconds before. There's no chance. It's a new era for Colts football. All right, let's go. You're all badasses. Thank you all for your service. Have an incredible day out there. It's the safest place in America right now. Holy hell. All right, everybody smile. You're probably not supposed to. Hey, safe travels. We appreciate the hell out of all of you. Go kick ass. Hoo-ah. Hey, the best game in the history of the Drumline is going to be today. You guys are going to steal the show and set the back. How's it going? My name's Pat. I swing a big hammer, and when I talk, people listen. A long fucking day. So I had to switch it to damn. When I get going like that, I really catch it. Hey, big cold swing today, huh? Another week about to start, Foxy. Triple H texted me, said he enjoyed it. Nice. He said if anybody's making fun of you for the size of your hammer, just tell them it's not the size, it's how you swing it. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show, Monday, August 24th. Ryan Clark, just a hilarious Super Bowl champ from the Pittsburgh Steelers, will be joining us to talk about the Earl Thomas situation, also the entire NFL here in about 8 minutes. Can't wait to talk to him. And then in the second hour, we got Field Yates, who watched my match this weekend and was tweeting out videos of it, and I appreciate Field for doing that. The match at NXT TakeOver 30 against Adam Cole was something I had thought about potentially happening in my life since I was probably like 10, 11 years old, right? 10, 11. I don't know the exact age. I know there's a lot of those wrestling fans out there that can be like, I remember the exact match that brought me in and I was hooked. And the era that ran then, whenever it was just insane. I mean, the Monday Night Wars were such a real thing with bringing the absolute best out of a lot of people. I mean, Monday nights were the best night on television for me as a kid by far. Monday Night Football was in there. Then you had Raw and Nitro during the fall, and it was just, it was beautiful. And I felt as if I always related to wrestlers more than anybody else because wrestlers had to be athletic. They had to have a personality. Had to be outgoing, and they had to be a little bit fearless. And for me, I was always trying to figure out what I wanted to be as a kid, right? I mean, everybody tries to do it. All I wanted to be was rich. That's all I wanted. Everybody asked me what I wanted to be when I was growing up. When I was a kid, all I wanted to be rich. I didn't care what it was. I didn't care how it was. I was like, I'm just going to be rich. I know that. It feels like all the rich people have the happiest lives. It feels like all the rich people do this. So all I want to be whenever I grow up is rich. And there was a lot of teachers that told me that obviously I wasn't caring about the right things. So I would try to I would try to see a profession, and if I thought that they were rich, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I think I want to do that. So there was at one point I wanted to be a professional soccer player, obviously because I played soccer, but I would watch soccer and I was like, I don't think I really relate to a lot of these guys. Then I want to be a professional comedian because the Blue Collar Comedy Tour came out. I was like, oh, I like these guys. I think stand-up comedy could be something I could do. Then you kind of see everything I've accomplished in my life thus far is basically from at one point during my childhood, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I think I want to do that. Just strictly because I thought the humans that were doing it were very rich. But when I watched wrestling for the first time, it was the first time I really looked at something. I was like, I feel like that's the world I'm supposed to be in. I think that is where I'm supposed to be. And then obviously trampoline wrestling was massive, especially in the town that I'm from. I think there's a special group of humans that do a lot of trampoline wrestling and have trampolines and above ground pools. And if you're watching or listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That was our neighborhood, the same neighborhood that had poker games whenever Chris Moneymaker went on to win the World Series of Poker. So all these things kind of went in there. So for like 20 years now, I've always dreamt of having a wrestling match. Now, a lot of things have gotten in the way with my ultimate goal of becoming a wealthy man for me not being able to wrestle. I got into a match with a guy named War Pig in South Charleston, West Virginia after college, and that was supposed to be an autograph signing. Obviously, I get called into the ring and War Pig pushes me around and I put him to sleep night with a super kick. 1, 2, 3. Nick Moraldo, myself, CFO Phil, and Slarm Dog. We all sprint out of the building because we thought we were going to get attacked by the 15 people that were there because we took out their guy, the War Pig. But then, obviously, football happened and a career happened and things get going business-wise for my family, my friends, myself, and we keep going. And that seed had always been planted. Like, okay, I'm supposed to wrestle. I think I'm still supposed to wrestle, especially after wrestling War Pig. I had a great time doing that. I was successful. Who's next? Nobody knows. But then the career continued and continued and continued. So I'd always had these seeds that I was supposed to wrestle. I get to work with WWE where I met Mansouri. I start doing kickoff shows and pre-shows and commentating and learning a little bit more about the world that I've always been a fan of. And even as an adult, my lady and we try to watch literally every single wrestling show that's on television just because it's such a combination of things. And I think a lot of people got a chance to see that whenever they dove into the NXT run that I had here for the last couple weeks, that wrestling is just so much more than just wrestling. I mean, it's emotion, it's drama, it's comedy, it's athletics, it's everything that I feel like I've been attracted to for my entire life. So getting a chance to get into the ring this past Saturday. Now, the way the whole thing was set up, don't respect that. I don't like it at all. I don't like that my colitis having friend Ty had to get pushed in the process. I don't like that Triple H had to disrespect, man, that I was a big fan of, obviously, disrespecting me on ESPN. But the fact that I got to get into the ring on Saturday was a moment that I thought about, like, hey, this is something I'm going to remember on my deathbed. And this is what happened. It's as easy as this. When you wrestle on a takeover for NXT, it's the best wrestling shows that happen. So I understood that there was going to be massive amount of pressure, massive amount of hype, massive amount of everything, because takeovers, especially a monumental one like Takeover 30, is a big deal. I made a couple mistakes in there, and I lost. And a lot of people were thinking, I made a lot of mistakes in there, okay? Shouldn't have kicked steel chair. Shouldn't have done that. And by the way, watching it back, I got a chance to watch it yesterday. He obviously baited me into doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was
Veteran move.
That was an
Wily
absolute
vet move.
That was an absolute mistake. I mean, I just blew his mind. Obviously, backflip, leap up, superplex, which, by the way, I was jacked up about. I mean, I was so pumped about it because those are things that as a kid, when I was watching wrestling, I'd see people do stuff and I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. That looks awesome. And I'd always been a good flipper on trampoline. So whenever he pushes me, I backflip, land it, jump up there. By the way, didn't know if I could get up there. Had no idea if I could get up there. We've done it. I've done it in my ring a couple times, but then whenever I got into said ring, I was like, oh, I feel like this is a little bit higher than my. So getting up there, doing that whole whole thing superplex. I think he potentially had his mind blown for a second. Definitely baited me into kicking the stairs. A couple other mistakes. Should have won up late for off the top rope, obviously, for the double act. Like, what was I going to do up there? I realized when I got up there, by the way, there was really nothing I could do up here. So then he kicks me in the face. So a couple mistakes in there, more than a few. I end up with the loss. But boy, what a bucket list item to go. And you know what? And say, yeah, I got a chance to do something I always thought I was supposed to do. And I enjoyed the living hell out of it. I did. But I mean, a win's a lot better. And aside from this loss, by the way, I'm still an undefeated wrestler.
That's right.
Yeah,
aside from this loss, I'm still an undefeated wrestler.
I mean, no one here, no blowing smoke up your ass. Like, that legit was one of the most entertaining, exciting things that I've ever seen you do. And I've seen you do a lot of stuff, but it just doesn't surprise me anymore. And I got, like, legit real joy and goosebumps when you saw all these diehard wrestling fans after, like, oh my God, this dude is legit. Like, this isn't just some gimmick. Like, this guy knows how to wrestle.
Was pretty cool, by the way, because I saw a lot of people that as soon as Mr. H made this a match at TakeOver, I saw a lot of people on the internet just start burying. I mean, I was getting buried by people that I thought I was a part of their community. But I follow all the dirt sheets. Like, I follow all the big time people because I am a wrestling fan, and I'm just watching all these people just bury me, and I'm like, man, you guys have no idea. Like, honestly, now the cliche about punters and kickers is they're not very athletic, obviously, and all that stuff. But I think if you just watch not even a half of a game of my career, I'm a little bit different than I think a lot of people. And I assume that I hoped that a lot of people got to see that. Although I wanted this thing to end quick. I think we had a hell of a show.
You had your Rocky IV moment, which was incredible. That was the first thing that kind of came to my head when I was watching the responses to your match on Twitter. You know, all these folks within the internet wrestling community that were on your ass once the match was made, that hated you and just threw all this vitriol at you. Your performance turned them. So it's very, very vindicating. Look, like Ty said, no blowing smoke up your ass, man. Like, takes a lot to actually do something that you talk about.
Yeah, well, I've kind of made a career of doing that, but you're 100% right. Walking out there, it was the first time I've ever done anything. When I was walking out there, and the boys were with me or whatever, I looked at this, I was like, this is the dumbest life of all time. I mean, what the hell am I doing? My face was all over the thing. I had entrance music, by the way, which is an entire story in of itself, which will be told one day. I had entrance music. I mean, it was awesome. I had a good time. Should have won. But that's something you can just go ahead and check off the bucket list.
You talk about the internet people, too. Not just the internet people, the other people in the building, too. There were a lot of people in that building that when Pat walked out, they're like, why is this guy in there? Why is he in there over me? I should. But by the end of the match, they were all standing, clapping, cheering him on, like genuinely clapping, because they were booing you at the beginning, giving you a hard time, trying to get in your head, and then you just flipped it on their heads with that performance.
It was, and I got flipped on my head, by the way. Hey, I'll tell you what. I watched that one back, too, a couple times. I woke up yesterday a little sore, obviously. Foot was really sore. Obviously, the right foot. I kicked the hell out of those. I kicked the hell out of those things. He definitely baited me into that, too. Like, I didn't realize it after the match. Obviously, when I was laying there dead tired and dead or whatever, I didn't even think, and I go back or whatever, and everybody's like, good show, good performance, And I watch it back, like, look, he is definitely just baiting me into kicking that there, and that's a rookie mistake.
What are you going to do?
Those are some rookie mistakes right there. That's going to happen, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Very, very thankful to check that off the bucket list, and the body's still sore. I would like to let everybody know that I am still sore, okay? Neck, back, leg, foot. I mean, there is some soreness, but it feels good. It feels good to be back in the back in the world of the body being sore.
Coliseum.
Yeah, back in the arena.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And gravity does work, by the way. Hey, remember Jeff Hardy came through our office.
Yeah.
And literally taught us the swanton. So I don't know if anybody saw the tribute to Jeff Hardy. I even did the double guns down as if I'm Jeff Hardy. Had to do it into the dudes. Poor guys. They were just with the Undisputed Era with wrong time, wrong people. Had to catch 240 pounds of ass coming at you. Speaking of, there is no 240 pounds of ass in this guy, but he's one of the most entertaining humans I've seen talk about sports. From the world of ESPN, Super Bowl champ, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Clark.
Hey, what up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Ryan? I got a hell of a spray tan going right now. I know you see it.
Bro, straight up, bro, you're freaking amazing, dog. Like, just, man, you do things, bro, in this business And I ain't gonna lie, when you decided to give it up as being one of the best specialists I'd seen during my time, I was like, man, dude's stupid. Like, he's gonna make a ton of money. And I was like, shoot, and he's kicking the ball. You could kick that thing forever. You know what I mean? But to see the transition you've made, man, whether it's sports, other forms of entertainment, dog, it's inspiring to a dude like me who actually, I don't necessarily love media all the time, man, but you do it in a way where it's cool, dog. It's fun. And you showing people a different route that athletes can take, bro. And I think it's awesome. It was amazing. I didn't know you could flip like that.
Hey.
So you're way more athletic than I ever thought. So now I'm really pissed off at you for giving up the ball. But nah, it's really cool, bro, man. Thanks for entertaining us, bro. I appreciate it.
Ryan, thank you for all of that, man. I really appreciate it. And you're a guy, by the way, that is not just the classic plug-and-place guy on television either, and I think that's why I enjoy the hell out of you and watching you. You're one of the fan favorites here from The Office whenever you get on ESPN. We appreciate you. So thank you for that. And hopefully, with the modern world, with the way the internet is paying and everything, a lot of players can see what I've done, hopefully, and be like, hey, here's an option now. If ESPN or Fox or any of these mainstream networks don't think that you're their guy, which is going to happen, by the way, that's going to happen. Not everybody is. There's another avenue for you to speak your mind and make money, and I didn't create it, obviously. The Rogans, the Barstools, there's a lot of people that have done it, but I think it is something where in the world that we're in, there's a lot of money to be made if you do it for yourself. So I am very thankful that you recognize that, and that's really cool to hear you say, but let's move on, okay? I appreciate you saying that, but let's move on. Earl Thomas situation over there in Baltimore. Now, we all saw in Seattle where he wasn't exactly thrilled to be there towards the end of his career, from the sprinting to the Cowboys locker room, asking him to leave, which they caught on camera perfectly and kind of built the narrative, to the middle finger after getting hurt after not signing an extension with Seattle off the thing. He ends up at Baltimore now. And I thought they had a great relationship. Now, Earl Thomas's offseason was an interesting one, obviously, with the lady and everything like that. It was an interesting one. I mean, it was very, very interesting. But we're in a quarantine world. You know, things can happen like that. Yeah. Now he gets into a scuffle at practice, and they're basically pitching and sending the narrative that conduct detrimental to the team, which they're saying so they can hopefully get back some of the guaranteed money that they owe him in later. But you said something smells fishy here. To me, it does too. It doesn't make any sense because he's a 7-time Pro Bowler, and they said that the senior leadership council on the team wanted him out of there too. Like, what the hell happened over there, and how did it happen so quick?
And also, too, Pat, think about how much information that is public, right? Like, when you start talking about the leadership council, the people that you bring together quietly on your team, right? You've picked these people. You say that these are the leaders of the team. You have meetings individually with themselves, with players alone, with coaches, but those meetings are closed, right? This isn't something that's supposed to get out. Like, you've been on teams when you have stuff that you want to handle in-house and keep in-house, that junk stays in-house. You feel me? Yeah. And so now all of a sudden we know about the council wanting him out. And there's been early news out of there that a young Deshaun Elliott's playing well, moving Jimmy Smith around. And when you look at the way Earl fit into that defense last year, he really didn't. Right? Earl's used to playing middle of the field in that Seattle deep cover 3 zone type of system where you have a guy like a Cam Chancellor who's a strong safety. Now you're asking him to play quarters coverage. You're asking him to play half, sometimes be in the box. And those aren't things necessarily that Earl's great at. And so he didn't play at that all-pro level last year. And so now you move into this year, you kind of have the offseason that Earl has, and you have some of those things away from the field. And then now maybe you're not playing as well as some of the young guys, and they start to go, well, shoot, looking at last year, the way it finished, you know, everybody remembers Derrick Henry turning him into a blocker, you know, in the playoffs. Now it's like, how can I get rid of this guy? And Pat, you've been on teams, bro. How many teams can you be a decade-long starter, possibility of being a Hall of Famer, 7-time Pro Bowler, and a young guy who hasn't really accomplished anything in this league, if you saw Earl's post, gets to throw his helmet down and berate you, show you up, because he's pissed off that you busted a coverage.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting because what you just laid out there from the secondary standpoint is something that I might not have recognized or other fans might not have recognized, as Earl doesn't fit in, you think, in the Baltimore scheme. So, for instance, I would assume then, because we've heard David Sampson, who's the former president of the Marlins, and although that's baseball and this is football, I would assume executives operate the same way. He said that they used to float out information about a player if they're about to trade him to the fans or float out maybe wrong information so that the burden or the anger from the fans isn't as high as it could be. So whenever they started saying, well, I started seeing NFL Network reporters like, he shows up late, he does this. I'm like, oh, this is the team like trying to be like, hey, this is why we're getting rid of the guy. But you're thinking that this all started as he's not as good of a fit for our defense as we thought it was. We owe him some money. Let's try to figure out how we could potentially get him the hell out of here. And by the way, in Earl's side of this thing, Earl might also hate that he wasn't a good fit for that defense either, and maybe know that he's not going to be able to play it to both sides. So it's very interesting, though, to kind of watch the politics behind it all.
Well, Pat, I'm going to tell you this, man. If you remember back when the Antonio Brown thing all started, and I was kind of ahead of it. This is when everybody still loved this smile. Everyone in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, you were a bad guy. I remember that.
I was a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
But it's because I was there every day, and I saw some of these things that we're hearing about with Earl happen. But you know who never heard about it? The media, right? You know where it never got out to? It never got out to the fans. Why? Because he was playing at such a high freaking level that it didn't matter what he did. You were going to keep him. And so I'm not saying that Earl wasn't late to meetings. I'm not saying that he didn't do some things within that building that didn't necessarily make him a favorite. But you know this, if he was playing like Tyrann Mathieu, they wouldn't be getting rid of him. If he was a young Derwin James, they would be getting rid of him. And so I think all those things come into play. But you know, and I know, bro, you've been around some bad dudes that were great players. And as long as they were great players, they had contracts.
Be who you can afford to be. That is an exact quote. Be who you can afford to be. There was a couple coaches that said, like, hey, listen. If Reggie Wayne shows up to a meeting late, guess what? Reggie might not get fined or cut as much as some of you who aren't Reggie Wayne who want to show up late to him. Like, that's just the way. Yeah, we'll talk to Reggie. Reggie won't show up late, by the way, because Reggie was a consummate professional.
Right.
But if Reggie Wayne does something, you should not be I should be treated the exact same way, because that's not how this game works. And now, granted, there's some buildings that are like, hey, Reggie will get treated the exact same way as everybody else. Now, I'm not saying Reggie ever did anything wrong. That was just the biggest name that I could think of at that time. I should have said somebody different there for the metaphor. But it's very open. Like, hey, this guy can do some things. You know why? Because this guy is going to get 7,000 yards for us this year. And this guy down here, you know what you're going to do? Probably get us COVID-19 with your beer.
Mike T would tell us, Pat. He said, listen, I'm not going to treat everybody the same, but I'm going to treat everybody fair. And you know what fair meant? Fair meant if you have enough deposited in my emotional bank account, I'm going to let you get away with some crap. And if you don't, then you're going to have to find a new team. And that's just part of it. That's part of our game, man. And Earl found out that that's part of the game for even guys who have a chance of being Hall of Famers, too.
We got to get to a break on radio. Will you stick with us on YouTube?
Yeah, I got you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Clark continues the conversation with us at youtube.com/the Pat McAfee Show for radio. We have to get out. We'll see you on the other side. And we're out. Ryan.
Yo.
Earl Thomas leaves Seattle with a middle finger up. Leaves Baltimore in a very interesting situation. Do you think there's any teams, no matter how talented you are, be who you can afford to be, do you think there's teams that are right now that are like, should we sign this dude, and how is this going to end up? There has to be that conversation happening right now.
No, it's that conversation, especially when you put the film on. You know, and I'm not saying that now he's a bad football player, right? But you know how it is when you play at a certain level. Any amount of drop-off when you're not that anymore is an issue.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Whereas, like, you have these dudes who are just really good players like myself.
Yeah.
Just a really good player. And when it slipped a little bit, there were still so many things that I could still do because of the way I played the game that made me valuable to a team. And on the other side of that, I was going to be early to every meeting. I was going to be the last guy out. I was going to organize meetings with the rest of the players. And so, you know, there was a medium you could find to try to keep me around as long as possible. But some of these dudes, man, that do it at such a high level that can't explain it, right? Like I try to sit down and have conversations with like Ed Reed about certain things that he would do. And I'd be like, Ed, I don't understand crap you saying, bro. Like that don't, and I know football. You know what I'm saying? And so when they lose a little bit of that talent, it falls off so much. And so now you can't compound that with not doing the right thing as a dude, as a person.
That's like, and also the contracts matter big. Your contracts are probably a lot different. Now I haven't dug into your contract.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you got contracts that are affordable.
Yeah. That was a big deal. Hey, that was a big deal for me. So when I was negotiating my contract, and I think the business side has to be maintained because the $10 million guaranteed that they're already trying to position themselves to get back from Earl Thomas. That's a massive part of this whole thing. For me, when I was negotiating the contract, I was like, I would like to get rich, okay? I would like to get money here, but let's not put me in a stratosphere where if I miss 3 balls and I shank 3 balls, all of a sudden it's like, we should get rid of that guy because we're paying him too much. There's like this fine balance of how much you cost versus your production level versus importance to the team. And if your production level and importance to the team drop, but your cost is still high, they're going to be looking to get your ass out of there as fast as possible. That's the NFL, baby. That's just the way it is.
And that's how it works. And they have young dudes that can play well enough. When you're looking at this isn't year 6, year 7 Earl Thomas. This isn't Legion of Boom Earl Thomas. And when you have young guys who've been a part of your organization, been a part of what you were doing, and you want to grow with those dudes, and you could grow with those dudes for cheap, that's what you do.
Now, hold on, Ryan. Do you think if Earl gets back into a scheme that fits his style of play, he'll be right back on top of the game?
I don't think so. I think the top of the game has passed him by.
Ryan, you're going to catch some heat for that. You're going to be called a hater for that. You're going to be called a hater
That's
for
fine.
that.
Well, you know what they're going to say. You were never good as Earl Thomas anyway. Legion of Boom was better than the 08 Pittsburgh Steelers anyway. How can you talk about Earl Thomas? Because I can. And because like if Earl was here, me and Earl could have that conversation. He's already punched one Clark. What's 2 of them? You feel me? I'm built for that. You know what I mean?
You're an idiot. You are an idiot. Absolutely.
But man, like, I think you look at the Tyrann Matthews, the Jamal Adams, the Derwin James, the Minka Fitzpatricks, the Landon Collins. Like, these guys are now better players than Earl Thomas. And this happens with the other greats. Like there was a time at the end of Ed's career, at the end of Troy's career, where Earl Thomas was a better player than them. And listen, we watch both of those other 2 dudes, right? At the heights of their games, I've never been on the field to watch better football players, not just better safeties, but better football players than Ed and Troy. But there was a time in the league where they want the best 2 safeties in football. And Earl has gotten to that point. And so in getting to that point, it's like you said, bro, like, you can only afford to act as good as you play. And right now, I guess that's not adding up for the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, Ryan, I appreciate you coming on and educating us. Troy was good enough to fucking ruin my dreams one night at the end of his career. Yeah, what's up, Diggs?
Ryan, I had a question for you. You brought up Mike T earlier. I want to talk to you about another Mike T, and that's Mike Tannenbaum. This morning on Get Up, he said that Ben is the 4th best quarterback in the AFC North. You work with this guy. How big of a big fat stooge is this guy?
Bro, did you miss when we were on together and he said that?
No. He said this before. He said that this morning. I didn't know he had said this before.
Bro, he said it on air with me. And so, like, the segment before, he was talking about giving AB a 1-day contract. Like, basically saying, every day AB got to come in and prove it. Not a 1-day contract, but if you don't prove it this day, you're out. And I told him, I said, bro, after that, I want to give you a freaking 1-day contract. and listen, dog, I love Joe Burrow, right? Like, Joe Burrow brought my school a national championship.
Yep.
I think Joe's going to be a good player. I said Baker Mayfield should be the number 1 overall pick. But no way you watched Baker Mayfield last year and you go, whew, that guy, he's a freaking dude. You know what I mean? Like, he got to work. You see what I'm saying? Like, he got 2 Pro Bowl, all-pro receivers, and he stunk up the joint. He has to work. Joe Burrow, still a rookie, and still playing in Cincinnati, guys. And so, I think when you look at Ben, maybe he's not going to be the dude that leads the leagues in yardage like he did. I think that was, 18? Mm-hmm. But you got a defense where you ain't got to. You talking about Troy ruining your dreams.
Yeah,
like, Ben ain't ruining your dreams. You know what I mean? It was about that defense. Now he has a defense that's similar. He got 3 really good young receivers, a good tight end, a stable of backs that's good enough, a stable offensive line. He just got to be good. He don't have to be great. And I think Ben is, like, You tell me, and I love Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson to me was by far and away the best player in the league, bro. If Ben and Lamar, if you asking me in a game, right, in a game, down the stretch, I need y'all to throw me into a win. I'm gonna take Ben.
Well, I mean that is that's an interesting way you propose it. I need you to
I'm not
throw
a dummy,
me
Pat.
in. Yeah.
Pat, you think you gonna bring me on this show to say stupid stuff? Come on, bro. Cut it out.
Hey, Roethlisberger is a lot more focused now. I think we did learn that this
that's
offseason.
right.
He's a lot more focused on football. He's at a
habits.
much happier place, he said, mentally, and I think that year away getting to watch the team, I think he said he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, to say Ben Roethlisberger, I always said this whenever we were going in to play Roethlisberger, strictly because the people on our team that were smarter than me said it, so it was like almost a parrot effect. Whenever we would prepare for Tom Brady, I guess it was like, hey, Tom can beat us, here we go. When we would play Aaron Rodgers, hey, Aaron can beat us, here we go. When we played the Steelers, it was always something else. They were never like, hey, Roethlisberger's the guy that could kill us. And then we watched the game, and Roethlisberger hangs 500 yards on us just every single time. And I started to think about it. I'm like, why does Roethlisberger not get talked about the way all these other guys do, especially because and it's always because Ben off the field. Ben off the field is somebody that is very punchable, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. I think he's a guy that people are like, not a guy we want to hang out with, obviously. And he goes on local radio shows, and I don't think he means to do it, but he throws people under the bus without even knowing it. There's just all these things that happen outside of Ben Roethlisberger, who I think he's potentially maybe changing into a quarterback that doesn't do all that stuff or whatever. And maybe they were just stupid mistakes. But I think that's why people don't respect what he does on the field as much, because the dude is just a killer on the field. I mean, he is just unbelievable on the field.
Hey, Pat, I know y'all had these dudes, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Ben don't look like much.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you walk up on him, it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when Killmonger, beat up the Black Panther. He's like, this is your king? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's, but Ben won at everything, dog. Like, we had an offense, defense, softball game every year in training camp. He was great at that. We used to do like around the world basketball in the garbage can. He'd win that. You played ping pong with him. He could do that too. Like, he was one of those dudes that went to a small school and was a 4-sport letterman. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's that type of talented. It just looks funny. And I think also too, when you're talking about some of the off the field stuff, leadership isn't natural to Ben. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have a certain level of like selflessness, altruism, compassion to lead naturally, for it to be organic. You got to care about like other people more than yourself. You know what I'm saying? I think being from where he's from, going to a small school, you never had to do that because you were the man. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter how you treated people. They knew, like, if I don't do and work with Ben the way Ben wants me to work with him, then I'm not his guy. And if I'm not his guy, I can't eat. And so I think he had to learn those things. But I will say this, and I hope he doesn't mind. Ben and my son were really close. The weirdest relationship ever. My son's a lot like his father. He was really young. We're at a fashion show. At Steelers fashion show. It's his first time meeting Ben. He walks up to him and goes, "Hey, Ben, can you not throw the ball to the other team next week?" And this is my first year there. You know what I'm saying? After they just won the Super Bowl. So my first thought is I'm going to have to throw hands with Ben Roethlisberger, fire down. You know what I'm saying? And so I would bring my son to every walkthrough on Saturday. And so my son became like the team babysitter. He broke us down for the Super Bowl. Him and Ben got really close. When Ben was suspended for 4 games, we had a walkthrough with my son at a football game. Ben goes to watch him play ball, right? You got to know what it's like to be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback at a freaking Little League football game.
Wow.
So in off season, my son had an encounter at a Whataburger, a racist encounter, and I get a text, right? I get a text from Ben. And it's like, RC, man, like, and it had a little bit of Ben to it, a little bit of like, hey, man, this is not about any perceived slight you've thrown toward me in TV. Like, you had to get that out, But then he asked about my son. And he sent me a paragraph. He's like, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I would love for you to send this to Jordan. I sent it to Jordan, and Jordan is like, well, Pop, do you think, I could call him? I could text him and tell him thank you. I said, Ben, I'm thanking you as a father, but I'm also going to have Jordan wants to reach out to you. And Jordan did. And, that's a story about Ben that people won't expect. That's
Yeah.
a story about Ben that I think people necessarily don't care to hear, but that's growth.
Yes.
Right? Like that's compassion. That's caring about other people, and that's leadership. Because even though he may have felt that some of my commentary on him, though, like I told him, I only try to be honest, has been unfair, it didn't matter as much in that moment as reaching out to a kid that he had a great relationship with.
That's awesome.
And so,
No,
I just thought, I share that.
would never ever hear that story, by the way. Not a story that we ever heard. And I'm very thankful that you told us, actually, because I'm actually looking at Ben just in my head while you're telling that story. I see like this smug face from Ben Roethlisberger, and then I'm like, then it like comes around. I'm like, oh, good dude. Is Ben Roethlisberger, great guy. Radio, we are about to bounce out. We'll see you in the next hour. We have Field Yates from the NFL Network joining us. Ryan Clark, great convo. All right, we're out. That is a story that I would never hear about, because the only stories you ever hear about Ben off the field are, I don't want to get into them, but all of the stories I've heard, especially being from Pittsburgh, the amount of stories that I've heard about him is everything that and it's probably from his younger age where he had to like kind of learn through this, but that's an awesome thing. RC, can I call you RC?
Of course, you're my guy, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, RC with a legendary conversation. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan!
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that, man.
All right, man. Have a good one, bro.
That was unbelievable. Look at this fucking Ben Roethlisberger.
wow.
Good guy.
New guy.
Don't sleep on
You
him.
really are right too. Like the image in your head just like pivots
As
with
he was
Big Ben.
he was telling that story, I was like, Ben Roethlisberger's being nice to people like that, just out of nowhere. Because being from Pittsburgh and not living in Pittsburgh when Ben was like going through, whatever phase of life he was going through at the time, the stories that I would get texted or like, oh, listen to this, listen what Ben did last night or whatever, or I would go back into town for a weekend and I'd go to a place and like we'd know the bouncer or whatever, and the bouncer would be like, oh, you should have seen blah blah blah. I'm like, and I'd leave. I'm like, this guy's just fucking outrageous, this dude. And then you hear him throwing his wide receivers under the bus and stuff. It's like, oh, this guy stinks. But boy, on the field, he's fucking unbelievable. Then you hear this story. It's like, oh, maybe not that terrible of a guy anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad it only took 16, 17 years or whatever. But, like, I guess it could be tough. Like, you come in and you immediately go 15-1 in the AFC Championship in your first season. You win a Super Bowl within your first 2 or 3 seasons. Like, I can see how that could be tough. But, I'm glad to hear it finally coming around.
All right, I got to run to the bathroom. I appreciate Ryan Clark. We got a lot to talk about here in the second hour. Field Yates joining us from ESPN. He watched the takeover. I mean, I appreciate what he was doing. I'm surprised WWE hasn't taken his down, but he's put some videos up. I appreciate him for that. I appreciate all of you for watching right now. There's a lot of dumb shit you could watch. The fact you watch the dumbest show on the internet, we appreciate. We'll be back with Hour 2 on this beautiful Monday, August 24th. Good morning, beautiful people. It is Monday, August 24th, 2020. Hour 2 begins in beautiful fashion with a little conversation about life. All the boys are here at Nick Morado, at Tone Diggs, Ty Schmidt, Jason McAfee, Viva Lazito, Evan Foxy. Intern Mitt is here at Boston Connor, and Mr. Mansuri are on the chatting couch. Not the casting couch, chatting couch. Not going to ask you guys doing weird could be casting.
You guys want to make $1,000, $5,000 a day?
Jeez.
That's porn, baby.
2 days ago. That's business. 2 days ago, I got a chance to live out a dream in my lifetime. I covered that in the first hour. If you haven't got a chance, go check it out. Please do. Leave the show on so we can continue to count the concurrent viewers because that helps out a lot for us. It was awesome. The body is sore for those that are probably wondering or potentially just joining us. Back sore. Neck is obviously sore because I got flipped onto my head. Foot sore because I kicked some steel stairs. And those steel stairs
Do not budge.
do not, and they did not after watching it back, by the way. And if you see, I was very shocked at how much it hurt. I was very, very, very shocked at how much it hurt there initially, and then I was like, oh my God, I think I potentially ruined it. Made a couple rookie mistakes in there, but had a great time checking something off the bucket list that I've always wondered if I was supposed to do since I was 10 years old. Big thanks to the hospitality over there for everybody at NXT, and Adam Cole, still a scumbag. That's all.
The worst.
I mean, I respect him, obviously, because of what happened.
As a competitor.
As a competitor, I respect him. Still a scumbag. What's going on, Nick?
Part of the recovery process here, I'm glad you're feeling better, but you haven't really detailed the cheat meal that you had yesterday because
Rock life.
it looked very similar to one Dwayne Johnson who likes to put on a little bit for his cheat meals. But I was curious how much of that you actually.
So I took her down. I went to town there. I really went after it. There was a platter of Reese's, obviously, got into that. Chocolate chip cookies, got into that. Those 2 Firehouse subs, I don't think got enough credit. I did take those down. Those ones got after it. The Domino's pizza got a lot of heat on the internet for only getting a Domino's pizza. Turns out Pizza Hut shut down like 700 of their stores in Indiana.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so my Pizza Hut.
Wonder why.
We are not getting.
Stop it.
We are
Never want to get.
We are not getting into that right now.
I mean, they ruined our office.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up, Tone.
I'll tell you what, Pizza Hut did. It caused quite a divide in this office for a little bit because of their terrible customer service and their terrible care for the pizza that they're making. It's not Pizza Hut. It's the employees that they choose to hire in this state of Indiana have potentially ruined the entire name of Pizza Hut for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, they're hiring people with missing a chromosome to make the pizzas. I mean, it's tough to do.
A shallow gene
you are
pool
not
of Pizza
allowed
Hut.
to.
No, they are.
You
They
are
are.
not-
This one up here, they
No,
are.
all right. Yes, there's no
Great
reason
wings.
to
Hey,
say
great
that.
wings. The
There's no
wings are
reason for you to
unbelievable.
say what you just said. But whatever the case, the Pizza Hut that was near my house, that was very good. That was very, very good. They got shut down or whatever. Domino's was the only one. My wife put this entire thing together. I had a cinnamon.
looks amazing.
I had a cinnamon roll French toast that I took down there. I had P.F. Chang's right there to my right. The camera's left. Obviously shrimp fried rice and some General Tso's chicken. I mean, it was. I'm looking at it right now, and I was gonna get back into this fitness life today. And cheat meals only, cheat days are only supposed to be one day there, or be a fat ass for a day thing. Boy, I felt terrible last night after eating all of that stuff. I mean, my neck was sore, my back was sore, my leg was sore, my foot was sore, and then my guts were just like blah, 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 because as I said in there, I was preparing for my wedding. So I wanted to get in shape for my wedding. So for 1 month before my wedding, I think 1 month before my wedding, I was like, I'm going to go keto. I'm going to go hard here because it's the biggest day of my life. These pictures are going to last forever. I'm going to get into the best shape I can possibly get in. And then this entire thing happens, which, by the way, I was playing wedding day. I enjoyed it. I ate all the food that was there. But then I was planning on, potentially that next day going right back to Fat Pat. You know what I mean? That was the plan at the beginning of the thing. Then I'm in the middle of honeymoon, get into it. I mean, there's an entire thing that goes in there. So it's like I had to carry that thing on like 7 weeks almost. And I was like, this is a long time to not enjoy food for a while. But I had to commit to it. Now, granted, I did take my shirt off in the match, just, spur of the moment, in the moment. Probably should have waited maybe a couple more weeks, but I'm down like 25 pounds from where I was.
Here we go.
I'm feeling pretty good. And I don't know if The Rock's cheat meals are better than mine or worse than mine, but I do know his definitely inspired mine. I tried to get everything he possibly had. I also had sushi later in the day.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had sushi
Spicy
later in
tuna.
the day. We watched the Indy 500.
Oh yeah.
My lady and her dad, massive Indianapolis IndyCar and Indianapolis 500 fans. So nobody was allowed at the race, which her dad was hanging out in the parking lot outside, like tailgating with friends of his for the practices and stuff. And there was people that were there doing that. He and Sam, they'll watch the race together every year. So they came over to the house. He came over to the house. They watched the race together. Very cool to watch. It ended under a caution, which for those that don't know racing, that's a yellow flag, which basically is just with a pace car leading the entire thing. Takuma Sato becomes the 2020 COVID Indy 500 champion. It's his second time winning. He goes back to Tokyo. I don't know, actually. Normally he would go on an entire media tour. He probably cannot go. He's from Tokyo. Big win for him. Graham Rahal. Good friend of mine, and the show. He saved a lot of my cars from extinction, by the way, because he owns like a body shop. So I've always had to like text him, like, "Hey, I need a car in 3 days." He's like, "Damn it, I'll send a tow truck over." He fixed it for me. He comes in third, and the Rahal Letterman team gets first and third at the Indy 500. It ends in caution, which people are mad about because yellow flag, la la la. Should have black or red flag that stopped it, restarted it. If they would have done that, and everybody's saying that it would have been an extra hour and a half for them to build back up this tower of tires that a car went 200 miles an hour into. If you've never watched IndyCar, first of all, I understand, because coming from outside of Indiana, I had never watched IndyCar ever in my life, had no idea what it was. Then you get baptized by the Indy 500 and you go and you're like, damn, this thing, there's 500,000 people here. There's a rave happening in one turn. There's this rocket ships going around you. It's a spectacle. Now, I've gotten a chance to befriend a lot of the drivers, and I've gotten a chance to go to the Indy 500 and enjoy it. You're talking about maniacs, like absolute lunatics these humans are. And yesterday, there was like 5-6 crashes that were just like, oh my God, what are you doing out there? It's very interesting if you pay attention, but I understand how it could be hard to get into the racing world. The Indy 500 is something here in Indiana that's very special, and a lot of people are not happy about not having any fans there, especially because a lot of those race fans went to Iowa, where there was fans allowed. A lot of them went to Kentucky, where there was fans allowed. And here, the biggest one, the Super Bowl, every single year, this is the race of all races for all of racing, I'd say. And there was no fans allowed, even though it takes up like 7 miles of space where you could probably put one human here, you could probably put one human there, and still have probably 30,000 people in there if you wanted it.
Can I ask you a question about fans being allowed places?
Yeah, buddy.
Came out this morning, making rounds around the news. Sean McDermott is not exactly thrilled that Miami came out and said, I believe they're going to be in Miami week 1, that they're going to have fans. They think it's unfair that there's going to be fans in some stadiums and not in others.
Well, the reason why McDermott is most mad is because the Miami Dolphins have already laid out their entire plan on how they're going to have fans in there, and that's AFC East there. So now McDermott knows that at least one of the games that he's going to be playing will have fans in the stands. Now, Miami has come out very early, and they were the first team, I think, to say, hey, we will have fans in our stands, which, by the way, very interesting, because the Dolphins, I mean, not the biggest fan base.
No.
Not like the team that's known for like, hey, we care about our fans. Now, granted, they probably do, but I'm just saying you don't hear like people be like, you know what? That Dolphins fan base, like that's a one that has a good relationship with the team. Now, granted, we have a Canadian friend who's locked in Canada right now who we need to get out of there because he's in a terrible situation. He needs to get to America quick, but he is a diehard Dolphins fan. Aside from that, you don't meet a lot of people that are like diehard Dolphins fans. The Dolphins owner, Ross?
Yep.
He has come out and very, like even like a month ago, 2 months ago, like we will have fans in the stands. This is how it'll work. Now this morning, via some tweets, they laid out an entire way. It'll be a ticketless entry. There'll be certain timing where people are allowed to come in. I would assume the exits are the exact same way. It is going to be a hell of a process getting to a game, but now that is all going to be, you know, regional. Like, okay, you can have fans, you can't, you can. Sean McDermott's not going to be happy about it, but the owners, what are they going to do? Tell the other owners that, hey, you can't make money because we can't? I doubt that's going to happen, but these coaches are going to be mad whenever you walk into a home field environment and then you walk into a completely bare stadium at your own place.
In these huge stadiums where it's like it's going to be like 13, 20,000 people, is that enough to make a difference?
No, I think the players will actually enjoy it, by the way, no matter who your team is. If you're going away and you have some fans there, there's a potential like, oh my God. Okay.
Kind of normal.
Oh, a little energy.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. Even though they hate us, like, there's a little energy. So I think there will be, and Sean McDermott doesn't like it for whatever reason. I don't think it'll be enough to, offsides or help a defensive end get off on the ball on an offensive lineman, obviously. But that a little bit of energy is good. I mean, you heard the boos for Andrew Luck 1 year ago today whenever he walked off. what was that? That was probably at an eighth capacity, that stadium, I would assume. You could hear that at some places. So there will be noise, but it won't be enough to affect the actual on-game strategy like McDermott is probably thinking about. I watch him mic'd up. He does a lot of clapping. McDermott's a big clapper.
Oh, yeah.
Big clapper. Let's go. Let's have a good time. I did not know that about him. I watched his mic'd up because I knew nothing about him. Big clapper, big positive guy. Let's keep him moving. They're building something special in Buffalo, but they still have that buzzsaw over there in New England that just got a brand new toy, basically.
And how long is that new toy going to be in town? 1 year right now, but if we extend him next year, then Buffalo all of a sudden stuck with Josh Allen.
Whoa.
Yeah, I said it. Shots. What is he? 7 for 51 on deep balls past 20 yards.
Well, now he has a weapon in Stephon Diggs that
can he hit him?
Can go get deep balls.
Well, can he hit him though?
Hey, can go get him. At least you know that. That was interesting though. But I'm intrigued to see how the fans in some places work, in other places doesn't. Because, like for instance, the Dolphins. Now, did we hear a big spike in Iowa and Kentucky during those races? Like, did we hear a bunch of like, you know what, Iowa, because they let people in the race that they had the IndyCar race. Well, because they let fans in there, you know what, massive death spike over there in Iowa.
Yeah, not that I know of. And also, like, isn't Florida is like still one of the biggest hotbeds of this? But if they do it this way, like, aren't you mitigating all the risk? Like, I mean, if these places hold 80,000 fans, if only like 13 to 15,000 people are there, like, you can very easily get everyone in and out without them coming in contact.
But what do we know about this thing at this point?
Nothing.
Nothing. We know nothing.
Nobody knows anything.
I mean, some doctor or scientist will know something, and then some doctor or scientist will come out on the other side, the complete opposite side. Like, not just saying, oh, we can curtail a couple of the things that were said there. We're talking complete opposites. Yeah. Everything that person said that went to school for 15 years to study the same exact thing that I'm studying, completely wrong. It's like, well, how?
It's all anecdotal.
Oh, no.
It's all anecdotal.
Tony Fauci. Everybody was expecting Tony Fauci's name to be tied to that lab in New Jersey that just had 77 false positives throughout the NFL. We did some deep diving. There was no direct correlation.
There's no his name, but we don't know if he has a separate name, an alias, perhaps. That
zero
could be on here.
financial investment in any vaccine.
Tony Fauci. The internet has proved that to be false numerous times. Let's go back to that tweet there from Tom Pelissaro, Foxy. A total of 77 tests from 11 NFL teams processed by the same New Jersey lab came back positive from Saturday's COVID-19 testing per league source. All 77 individuals underwent an additional point of care test and all tested negative. Damn.
Yikes.
That's preseason for these labs too. Let's remember that. But I don't know if scientists have a preseason. I feel like they all have to have it. And I don't know if science has a preseason, right? So if the science is wrong 77 times on one day, what would do throughout an entire season? What type of teams? Now, granted, obviously, we want everybody. We are talking about this strictly from the meathead sense of sport, as opposed to the life-altering effects that could come from this. But boy, 77 false positives on one day. If that happens in the middle of the season to 10 different teams, I mean, we're talking pretty problematic situation with billions and billions of dollars on the line. We got to get to a break. We'll talk to Field Yates about this. And what does he know? What does Field Yates know? I'm sure he's tapped in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. Field Yates got to know what's going on over there at Bio something. Bio something is the lab. They're all owned by the same things, I think.
BioReference.
BioReference. For reference, the BioReference was the one that had 77 false positives in one day. They came out with a message like, we got to figure it out, by the way. See you later. Keep it moving. It's like, I bet the NFL is like, is that you guys got to figure out? I'm happy you guys got to figure it out.
And I assume Big Lab wants the NFL to go on because they are testing these players every single day. I'm sure the NFL's paying them a pretty penny for it.
But the same people that are in Big Lab, I'm not necessarily certain they're
war against football
sports fans.
Mm-hmm. True.
Not that they would give half, but there is conspiracy fodder as soon as there's 77 false positives out of one place and not out of the other two where teams are getting tested. 13 minutes after the hour, we have to get to a break. Field Yates joins us on the other side. Field Yates went to a high school, by the way,
Belmont Hill,
that had
cookies and milk for their students at 10 o'clock every single day. Talk about their feelings.
I don't know if they talk about their feelings, but they have cookies and milk. It's like a siesta in the middle of the day.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like a siesta, like a feeling siesta.
This is the Pat McAfee Show. Green Day is having a blast here. Minnesota has shown up. Row the boat, Sky U-Mall, go Gophers. Let's get the axe and keep that thing in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The place is about to lose their minds. Ladies and gentlemen, watch a man maestro a crowd like Coach Lee Corso.
Watch, now he'll say to me, works every time, what?
Every time. You just can't dog pee on a field. This obviously led to a nightmare situation for Luke Logan, who misses the extra point. An absolute pandemonium happened. But in Dwayne Haskins' defense, the Redskins and Dwayne Haskins might never win a game again. That guy's flexing like PJ Fleck a little bit. Good sells a little bit delayed. He got me the throw. Throw the flag. Sell your soul. Who hates Iowa? A lot of hate here in Minnesota, Maria. Hey, you look good, pal. For me, right after we leave this octagon, I'm going to Lake Minnetonka. I'm pulling a swordfish out of there. Then I'm going to stop by Paisley Park. I'm going to pay my respects to Prince in the Purple Rain. Then I'm going to walk into TCF Bank Stadium, and I'm going to say, That's pretty awesome, huh?
Small businesses have unique needs, and despite the current uncertainty, one thing that remains unchanged is the importance of having the right people on your team. When your business is ready to make that next hire, LinkedIn Jobs can help by matching your role with qualified candidates so that you can find the right person quickly. LinkedIn is an active community of professionals with more than 690 million members worldwide. LinkedIn Jobs screens candidates with the hard and soft skills you're looking for and puts your job post in front of qualified members every day so that it's seen by people looking for jobs like yours. When your business is ready to make the next hire, find the right person with LinkedIn Jobs. You can pay what you want and get the first $50 off. Just visit linkedin.com/Pat. Again, that's linkedin.com/Pat to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Great read there, Diggs.
Maybe Tom.
Great read there, Diggs. Joining us now is a man who I appreciated everything that he was doing on the internet this weekend. A man who obviously knows his stuff, ladies and gentlemen. From ESPN, NFL Insider, Field. Yay! you,
What's
bro.
going on, my man?
Hey, I appreciate you putting some of those videos up there and also not putting my loss on the internet. I appreciate that a lot. You put all the good stuff, not the bad stuff. That's a good man right there.
Let me ask you, how much can I fanboy right now? Like, are you going to try to play modest here? You're going to be humble? Or can I just, like, empty the tank on what I thought about Saturday night?
Hey, go ahead and empty the tank, man. Go ahead and empty the tank.
I'm sure you guys did not want me to come on the show and just talk about Saturday night, but my apologies. Dude, I am a huge WWE fan, a huge fan of sports entertainment, as you know, have been for my entire life. We have done something at a pay-per-view in Hartford when people could actually go to events together for WWE Digital. Saturday night was the most impressive debut for a wrestler that I can think of in quite some time. I was not nervous for it. First of all, they introduced you as 240 pounds.
Yeah.
Either you're carrying that weight better than anybody I've ever seen, or that was just something they asked for like 6 weeks ago. There's no way you're 240. It's all on the right. There it is.
I was actually 265 like 2.5, 3 months ago. I got real fat this fall, real comfortable. No pizza was safe.
It happens. Anyways, first of all, the swanton that you hit, I thought that would be the apex. I thought that was your moment that night. But when you go backflip, back onto the top turnbuckle, and superplex Adam Cole, arguably, in my opinion, the best pound-for-pound wrestler in sports entertainment on the planet right now. I was like, are you kidding me? So, huge ups to you. That was incredible. I thought the internet needed to see that. And I don't care if you are a fan or not a fan of wrestling. If you didn't appreciate what you accomplished, man, that was really cool. I can only imagine the rush that you felt during any moment of that match, whether it was the swanton, whether it was the superplex, even moves where you were ending up on your back. But really cool, man. Really appreciate it. And I love what you do for WWE. And I love that industry. So it was awesome to see.
Field, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. What I did not account for in the push off, oh my God, let's backflip here, jump up superplex, was, boy, that superplex, you don't read about how bad that hurt like that thing hurt like a son of a bitch. You don't count for that. It was quite a ride there.
I mean, last night watching Asuka taking one onto the apron, that was like, geez, I can only imagine how that one felt. But dude, you're right. I guess I underestimated how it probably felt for you. By the way, great performance by AJ Hawk too. Like, really solid. He's got a career there, I think.
And world-class table tennis enthusiast Nick Maroldo. Let's not forget about him.
Very impressive.
Darius Butler was ready to go. I mean, it was a very, very, very cool Saturday. I talked about it in the first hour about how that's like 20 years of me wondering if I was ever supposed to be in there, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm very thankful for everything you just said there and for posting about it, because that conversation, especially with you being a part of it, got massive. So thank you, Field. Let's move on now. Let's talk about why whenever Field Yates talks about something, a lot of people listen. That's because you're very good at what you do. NFL insider for ESPN. You and Schefter are obviously running stuff over there. Let's talk about the NFL's biggest story right now. It is Earl Thomas, but for me, the bigger story is this lab in New Jersey with 77 tests for 11 NFL teams that have all come back as a false positive, and there's an entire cluster truck of everything that happened in there. How is the NFL, and I know the lab has come back and said, we figured out what it was, we got that out of there. How is the NFL handling this internally? I assume there is some people that are very, very worried about this happening in the middle of the season and causing quite a problem in a workflow for everybody.
So Sunday morning was this really interesting dichotomy. On the one hand, there are three in the entire league who are on the reserve COVID list. There are about 2,600 players on rosters right now, and only 3 of them are on the reserve COVID list, which either accounts for guys who have tested positive or have been exposed to somebody who may of themselves have been positive. So that's a really good number, 3 out of 2,600. On the other hand, as you illuminated, there's a really fine line here right now. I know the NFL, there were some anxious moments yesterday morning and also Saturday, because this did also involve the testing from Saturday. Now, it happened to be that there were a decent number of teams that had scheduled days off on Saturday, so it didn't necessarily cease operations surrounding practice or other work inside the facility on Saturday, but Sunday morning was a tenuous moment for the NFL. It was a reminder that as much progress as we've made and as good of a job as the NFL has done, that there is no margin for error with it. It doesn't take a bunch of people acting irresponsibly or a bunch of people contracting the virus. It takes one person to contract the virus for a lot of things to go haywire. And it asked this question without actually intending to do so. What happens if it wasn't Saturday night before August 23rd?
Oh, yeah.
It was, what if it's Saturday night before week 4 or something of that nature? And I think the NFL feels fortunate.
Week 16.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it could be the Super Bowl for all we know.
Yeah.
So I think the NFL feels fortunate that timing was maybe in its favor in this regard. And I do think, as much as it's going to suck to have to go through a lot of these things, the NFL is probably going to find some silver lining in sort of working through some of the issues before the season begins. Kind of a test trial without actually being a test trial. So if there was any positive coming from this, it's not just that all those tests, all 77 of them, were false positives, but also that the NFL has a chance to refine its lab work and its systems and figure out some of the issues that might be diagnosed as errors right now.
What was that word you used early? Dichotomy?
Dichotomy. Yeah, you like that one, huh?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Dichotomy, sort of like, two opposite sides of the spectrum, right? So like, yeah.
Hey, dichotomy.
It's DICH, which is the tricky part.
Oh, you're like a spelling bee master as well, huh? Is that your?
Some of us are made to be super, future WWE champions, and some of us are made to be spelling bee champions.
I actually enjoy my spelling capabilities, but that one I would have got wrong. Okay, so let's just go ahead and assume that there's going to be a season, and let's act like even if the NFL and the players, the coaches, the equipment managers, athletic trainers, the film people, everybody that involves in football does their part. Let's assume that the scientists will also do their part who are testing people, and they don't bring COVID-19 into the testing sites. So let's just assume everybody does that and there is a season. Earl Thomas, the way it was phrased as his release from the Baltimore Ravens seems like the Baltimore Ravens are setting up to not have to pay him. Conduct detrimental to the team, which is the shield that every team hides behind so they can find people however they want to. The NFLPA should not have let it in the CBA. It's in the CBA. It's still in the CBA. It's a big deal. It was probably meant for something, but it's used for other things like finding people for tweets and for other stuff like that, which I have learned about. Earl Thomas, though, now, Seattle and him did not end well. Baltimore and him, obviously not ending well. Are there teams that are going to be interested in Earl, and is he going to get paid anywhere near what he was supposed to get paid next year anywhere else?
I don't think we can overstate how important that $10 million of guaranteed money that the Ravens want back, that Earl says, no way, I'm assuming, to. We cannot overstate how important that is in what's next for Earl Thomas. Because let's say there was a ruling tomorrow by the NFL and the NFLPA, and they said, hey, Earl, you get that $10 million. The Ravens case is faulty. It's all yours. Well, then Earl may say, you know what? I'm signing a minimum money contract with whoever wants me. Because he could basically, I think almost every NFL team would examine a 1-year minimum money contract for Earl Thomas as largely no risk. The problem is that if Earl Thomas right now in his early stages of looking for his new employer is saying, not only do I want to sign with you, the Dallas Cowboys, or whoever else might be in the mix for Earl Thomas, but I want to make $10 or $12 million this year because I'm one of the best safeties in football. How many teams are equipped to do that right now? Think about all the players that can't find a job, and they've been free agents for months. Jadeveon Clowney, Logan Ryan, Devontae Freeman, amongst others. Well, not like teams are going to be moving mountains right now to pay for Earl Thomas given the circumstances of his release. As you said, basically two really well-run organizations have said goodbye to Earl Thomas in the past, 16, 17 months. So Earl Thomas's value right now, separate and apart from the fact that he's 31, he's coming off of a year which he had just 2 interceptions. I think there are people in the NFL that just based off of the fact that the Ravens and the Seahawks couldn't tolerate him are already asking themselves, well, can we possibly fit this guy into our locker room? But I always say it's about what the player wants first, because if Earl wants to just go somewhere to win, or if he wants to go somewhere to spite the Ravens, if he wanted to sign with the Steelers for $1 million, maybe the Steelers are interested. I mean, I'm certainly not floating that. I'm just saying as an example.
You certainly floated it. Certainly floated it.
I know the Pittsburgh side of you right now is thinking about it more and more. But my point is that, if Earl wants to go somewhere that gives him the best chance to win and is less concerned about money, then the market may explode or may bubble up in a way that it wouldn't if it's just about finding the right fit and also being paid commensurate with what he believes he earns. But I still think that all eyes go to Dallas. He's wanted to be there for multiple years now. It would be a homecoming. The Cowboys have been unafraid to make bold and audacious moves since Jerry Jones became the owner of the franchise. They've already added Aldon Smith this offseason. They have already added Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy before he got hurt. The list of guys goes on and on the defensive side of the ball. Clinton Dix. You might as well keep the overhaul going.
So the Ravens still have to pay him that $10 million next year no matter what until they potentially fight it. And then he has to pay it back? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, so as of right now, the money is owed to Earl Thomas. Now, the Ravens are going to contend that, hey, conduct detrimental voids those guarantees. It's going to result in a grievance. Now, the problem is that I'm sure Ravens fans would like for that $10 million issue to be resolved right now, not just as it's saving the team cash, which isn't really what they care about, but it's cap space, right? If Earl Thomas wins this grievance, he's going to count $25 million against the salary cap this year to not play for the Baltimore Ravens. That's the largest cap hit they have on their team. The largest cap hit the Ravens would have would be Earl Thomas playing for somebody else. But that grievance is not going to be settled right away. Remember Antonio Brown obviously we all remember him being released after just, 7 days with the Patriots?
And one
His
touchdown.
grievance was settled in July. So it took 7, 8, 9 months. These things take a lot of time, not just because they involve lawyers and minutia and stuff like that, but also because of the world we're in right now with COVID. So I think there's a chance that this thing could drag for a while. I'm not expecting immediate resolution for Earl Thomas.
Field, you just brought up Antonio Brown, and you tweeted yesterday about the current wide receiver injuries for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, everybody there, by the way.
Is there any news on Antonio Brown and who's looking at him, and is it the 49ers?
I think teams are not in much of a rush right now to sign Antonio Brown because he can't play for anybody until at least week 9 of the regular season. So I wonder if teams right now are saying to themselves, it's already hard. We've already had to move on from undrafted rookies and other developmental players because rosters had to be cut down to 80, that we're already having enough of a hard time getting reps for players that we really don't know that much about, that we know what Antonio Brown is. Everybody in the NFL knows what kind of player Antonio Brown is. The problem is they also know what kind of person he has been for much of his professional career. I think that Antonio Brown will eventually find a team. I don't think any of us are naive enough to think that he is not good enough or that there are not enough NFL teams that could use a wide receiver. I just would be surprised if a team makes any rush to do so, given that although we've only known his suspension length for a few weeks, we've known Antonio Brown was available since week 3 or whatever it was of last year that the Patriots cut him. So my instinct is that maybe closer to the start of the season, Antonio Brown finds a home, at which point a team could sign him, not have to have him count as a roster spot, and then allow him, even though he can't be practicing with the team, allow him to get up to speed a little bit with the playbook and sort of have him on the ready for week 9 or week 10 if they have their bye in the first 8 weeks of the season to come back. And unless you're signing with New Orleans and maybe Atlanta, Arizona, Green Bay, he's gonna be the best wide receiver on your team.
He's gonna be the best wide receiver. I'm not going to say it. I haven't seen him play in a while. He's just unbelievable. And nobody ever talks about how good he is at football because of everything that's happened off the field, much like Ben Roethlisberger. Let's talk about another quarterback and a quarterback that is tight with Antonio Brown and a potential landing spot that everybody thought he could go to even before the suspension was handed out was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans said we could have an all-time great offense. And I think us in the media and the people that have been talking about this team, we saw that they could have an all-time great offense in 2020. So the fact that they know that in the locker room, I think is awesome. The fact that they're probably expecting a lot out of themselves. It feels like Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you just look at the videos that have surfaced, it feels like that team is gelling in a short amount of time. What are you hearing out of Tampa, and how strongly do you feel about their team being a great one this year?
This probably shouldn't surprise us. But what I keep hearing is that no matter how great the expectations were within Tampa for Tom Brady, is that it's everything plus more, right? That he's so incredibly perfection-driven and so dedicated to being the best and I understand that we've known that, right? Like the Tom versus time thing and 6 Super Bowls should be enough evidence.
Avocado ice cream.
Avocado ice cream. Yeah. Still not sure I'm totally sold on that myself. But
me neither. Cookies and milk, though, 10 a.m. I'm in.
For sure.
Yeah.
All the way in.
Yeah, all the way.
That's how you carry that 265.
Come on.
There you go.
Good
But,
spray
I
tan,
would say
too, you
that
didn't tweet about.
It shouldn't be a surprise that Tom Brady is already making a mark on this Bucs franchise in a way that is already like that transcends wins and losses. Now, ultimately, the wins and losses will be what matters, and I'm not worried about the Bucs offense this year. I'm really not. But one of the narratives that I've heard a ton this offseason, how the Bucs were much better defensively than people gave them credit for. Now, I don't think they were like a bottom 5 or bottom 10 defense last year, but people have specifically pointed to down the stretch and how much better they were. And they were definitely improved in some ways. But if you go back and sort of comb through the game-by-game log, there were some performances that were impressive. I would also point to some of the quarterbacks that they were facing down the stretch, and that I still want to see a little bit more from that Bucs defense. I like some of the individual pieces, but ultimately the Bucs are going to have to account for something they have not maybe ever accounted for, even during their Super Bowl run in the early 2000s. They're the hunted now, right? I don't care if Tom Brady signed with the Bucs or with a team in a different country. His team is going to be the hunted, right? I mean, that's what the kind of cachet that Tom Brady brings. Every game against the Patriots for the past 20 years was the opposing team's Super Bowl, basically, right? And Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, the best of the best are going to have to carry that responsibility with them. And I'll be interested to see how the Bucs face and handle that pressure, even though I do think Brady has already made a massive mark on that.
Yeah, Tom's going to change the entire organization. I said that any team that signs Tom Brady, everybody's going to get better because Tom Brady's coming in there. You want to heighten your ability so that you can catch up to what he's at, but also he's going to have tips for people on how to make things better. I said, if you have a chance to sign Tom Brady, you sign Tom Brady, not just because of what he does on the field, but the leadership for everybody else. Last question before we let you go. We're talking to Field Yates, ESPN NFL Insider. Very thankful for you joining us today. Great setup, by the way. Are you in the ESPN building right now, or is this just your basement?
I am. Yeah, so we do our show 10 to 11 here. We run live, so I missed the first hour, which bums me out that I missed the first hour of your show.
Oh,
but,
I missed your show too. Don't we talk about how we always miss your show?
Going live at 10.
Yeah, so we get bummed about that as well, Field. So know that it's both sides here, reciprocated love. You talked about Lamar Jackson, the best of the best here, and how you're the targeted at, especially after being MVP. He sees what Patrick Mahomes does, MVP, Super Bowl MVP, $500 million contract. Lamar said that he's nowhere near done. He's still got a lot to prove. What is it? This groin injury seemed to just pop up out of nowhere. Are they just being extra precautious because he's Lamar Jackson, or is this a real problem potentially? Because, by the way, for the way Lamar Jackson plays, all anybody's ever said is wait for him to take one big hit, one big hit, one big hit. And he's elusive and has figured out a way not to do that, and that's why he's special versus a lot of other guys that have maybe played in a similar style but nowhere near what he has done. But a groin injury is something that could really hinder a Lamar Jackson performance. Is this something they're very worried about, or is this something we shouldn't even think about?
Yeah, I think we should think about it, but they're also not super worried about it. I think they're being, the abundance of caution, to borrow your line, is accurate here. So he's back on the practice field today, but this is going to be a theme around the NFL. Soft tissue injuries were one of the things that the players were concerned with in this agreement they had to get back to work, which is why they had the acclimation period for about 2 weeks of no padded practices. So to your point, Lamar Jackson is a runner on top of being an outstanding quarterback, so you're always going to be a little bit more mindful of him having soft tissue or any kind of lower body injuries, but I'm not overly concerned. I don't get the sense the Ravens are either. At the end of the day, though, as much as we only have 14 padded practices, that's a fact, that's a limit. It's Lamar Jackson. Like, at some point, it's sort of diminishing returns on the practice reps. Like, he's unanimous MVP. If there's somebody who does not need work on that roster, like, he may not be there's certainly guys like Mark Ingram and Calais Campbell, but like Lamar Jackson's one of those guys that if he gets 70% of his normal reps, you're probably feeling equally comfortable and confident going into week 1 against the Browns. No issue here on Lamar Jackson.
Okay, that's good news for Ravens fans and for NFL fans in general because he was electrifying last year. And also, we saw jet ski take him out in the offseason. Let's hope it's not the groin. Ladies and gentlemen, ESPN NFL Insider and Stud, I appreciate you a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, Field Yates. Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
No, thank you for joining us. You're awesome. Okay, we have to get to a break. We'll do YouTube questions during that break at youtube.com/The Pat McAfee Show. A lot of information rolling out of Field Yates' brain right there. I feel like he's always dialed in. I feel like those insiders know a lot more than they could say, so whenever they speak, you got to kind of like listen and like, all right, what's he saying that he knows? What does he not know? That NFL laboratory thing is a big deal. 77 false positives out of one place. And what was it? They said that it got brought into the lab somehow, and then they kept it moving. It's like, so now we got to worry about the labs that are doing the testing. And let's just not even talk about the NFL. Let's talk about the regular humans now that are getting tested. Is that happening in a lot of what are we? I mean, now you got to call into question a lot of things. And I don't want to dive too deep into that because my brain will just keep going. But, I mean, there's a lot to talk about on the other side of the break for radio. For YouTube, we got YouTube questions on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show. Are we clear?
Good.
Huh?
They're off the YouTube stream right now. Don can hear us right now, but I think you're good.
All right. YouTube, how's it going? We appreciate you rocking with us. We got over 15,300 people currently watching. We got 1.6K, which is a Zito term, 1.6K likes.
1.6K in the house, y'all.
If that thing gets up to 3, we're not cool.
I think you're good no matter what.
He literally, for those that are watching, can't hear. The guy who runs the radio side of this thing is in Culver City, California, which is a little bit of a distance from here. He just popped into my ear and said, "Yeah, you're clear now." So it's like, sorry for the fucking radio. I mean, that's on. I mean, Don, I love you, man, but there's nothing I can fucking do there. Okay, if that thing gets up to 3,000 likes within the next 15 minutes. We'll go 20% off the whole story this afternoon, though. This afternoon, because I think Phil has to punch that in somehow. Yeah. So if that thing gets to 3,000 likes in the next 15 minutes, we'll go 20% off the entire store, store.patmcafeeshow.com. Now, let's get into a segment where people say, why do you do it? Because we like to dive deep into the most positive place on the internet, which is the YouTube comment section for some YouTube questions.
YouTube questions.
Oh, is that the Don? A little bit different? Don,
a little different now.
The Don Zito? What do we got, brother?
From Jack Nelson. Will Pat be getting back in the WWE ring again soon?
That's a great question, Jack. I appreciate that. And to be honest, it's a question I've been asking myself a lot since yesterday, and everything like that. And I heard Mr. H, Triple H, Paul, Hunter, all the names, the Cerebral Assassin, the Game, I mean, everything. I heard him in a press conference, said a lot of very nice things after. I appreciate that. And then he said, he talked about a conversation that he and I had a couple years ago, 2 years ago, about how I wanted to be a weapon for the WWE. And he thought I was as a commentator. And the entire time I thought I was a wrestler and all that stuff. And a lot has happened in the last 2 years, obviously, since we've had that conversation. But that's something I've wondered as well. I'm not 100% sure. It's one of those things where I was so incredibly thankful that I got a chance to do it, especially at a takeover. But now going forward, it's like, what do I do? Am I a guy that can do that? I don't know if I'm a guy my schedule is insane. I don't. Now I sound like such a petty prick there, being like, "Oh, my schedule is so crazy." True. But it really is. Like, we have a business now and everything like that. So I'm not 100% sure. And to be honest, I didn't even want to think about that until yesterday because I'm such a, hey, what's next? Like, what do I got to focus on next? Like, okay, when this show happens, it's like in the morning, I'm not worried about anything other than this show. It's like, okay, I got this show to do. And then as soon as this show ends, it's like, okay, what do we got? We got AJ Hawk. Okay, we'll think about AJ Hawk. Then when I got to work out because I don't want to go back to being fat. Okay, I'll worry about the workout. So I haven't even got a chance to really think about that. But it seems like there's a lot of conversation about me doing more, and I'm very thankful for that. But I literally did not even think about that until Sunday.
I don't want to fan the flames for you and what's going on upstairs in that brain of yours, but I will say that while I was still with WWE, when you cut that promo to take us off the air for the TakeOver Chicago pre-show last fall, that kind of gave us all an inside, like, all right, look, we've seen what you can do on the panel, but holy shit, the way you were with that crowd.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I thought to myself watching on Saturday night was, what would this do to Pat, and what would this be like for Pat in front of a live, sold-out arena?
So a lot of my friends that are wrestlers, obviously, I got a lot of text messages from people, a lot of DMs from people, and I'm very thankful for everybody who I have a lot of respect for, saying, hey, appreciate what you did. A lot of people sent me messages in the business that were like, hey, thank you for what you did in there. Because I said this on Busted Open the day before. On Friday, I got a chance to go on Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM with Mark Henry, Boley, LaGreca, Gabby, that entire crew over there. I got a chance to go talk to him, and I said, I've always been a fan of wrestling, and whenever an outsider comes in, whether it's the Saturday Night Live people or Tyson Fury, who's the best boxer of all time, or basically anybody. Gronk. I mean, you go Gronk, anybody. Gronk, yeah, the entire thing that happened on the documentary about Vince Evans show. It always appears as if they gave zero effort in attempting to make the match look anything like how a professional wrestling match is supposed to look. So I always said, if I ever got an opportunity to get in there, I'm not going to disrespect the business. That's always what I said. So after the match, obviously hanging the head, sore neck after the big loss. I mean, obviously big loss. Aside from that match, by the way, I'm still undefeated. I got a lot of messages from people in the business that I've always been a fan of that were like, hey, thank you for what you did in there. Like, thank you. I'm like, oh, no, like, thank you for, like, hey, no worries at all, anything like that. But everybody followed up with, if that was in front of a fucking crowd, it would have been a much different animal. You would have, and I'm almost like, hey, I've never wrestled in front of a crowd. So for me, like, hey, I was pumped up there. Like, just, you have to experience that in front of a crowd. And all day yesterday, I was thinking, that's all I was thinking about. Like, well, why is everybody telling me the same thing, that this is much different in front of a crowd? Do I have to I don't know. That's something I just don't know. I don't know the future.
Maybe you think about becoming Mr. Pay-Per-View and they give you like 50% of the pay-per-view money.
That's a good idea. Smart. Get yourself one of those
McGregor
McGregor deals.
move. We're back here in 2 seconds. Hey, Z, you got something to read, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Attaboy. The Dawn. Zito with the...
How we doing?
How you doing?
All right, intro. Summer is in full action, and we are thankful for our sponsor today, Manscaped.
Hey, by the way, quick look.
Oh.
The Lawnmower 3.0.
Oh,
Damn body. Except for the chest. Had to keep the chest hair. The whole body, though. You just, because you start... and then you just let that thing mosey, and then it's just like
keeps going.
It's like hot butter with a knife, just so smooth.
I love butter.
Bingo! Shout out to Manscaped, by the way, for giving me. They didn't give me the spray tan, but they gave me the next best thing with this whole body buzz. I appreciate it.
Sun's out, bum's out, and hopefully your pubes are not out. Classic. Manscaped offers are the only tool to keep your hair groomed above and below the belt. Do not read. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. They actually just released their Shears 2.0 nail kit, which is the perfect add-on to their Lawnmower 3.0 or Perfect package. The Shears 2.0 is a luxury 4-piece nail kit featuring tempered stainless steel tools, and it includes slash-tip tweezers, rounded point scissors, fingernail clippers, and a medium grit nail file. You're probably wearing flip-flops, and people don't want to see those nasty-ass on-clip ass toes of yours.
You're 100% right.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to call the action real quick. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PATM at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code PATM. Summer is here. It's time to manscape.
Hey, shout out to Manscaped for making me look a lot better and humans all around the world to look better. AJ Hawk will be joining us in about 10 minutes for McAfee and Hawk. Can't wait to chat with him about the weekend. He was in my corner on Saturday night. Also, we got 3,000 likes on the YouTube in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Use promo code YouTube3K for 20% off the store, the entire store, store.patmcafeeshow.com. It isn't easy to bounce around, but there's a lot of things in there. Enjoy the hell out of that. Shout out to the YouTube folks for making that happen. There's a lot going on in the sports world that we have not talked about, mostly in the NBA. One of the biggest shots that have happened since quarantine happened just yesterday with a guy from Slovenia.
Yeah.
A man who I don't think I paid enough attention to or gave enough credit to before quarantine and before the bubble down there. But Luka Doncic, who is 21 years old.
Yep.
21 years old. When I was 21, very different than what Luka's doing. Luka hits a step back at the end of overtime to give them a win over the Clippers on a sprained ankle that caused him to be carried out basically 2 days beforehand. He ended up having 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists. 21 years old, and he's the third player in NBA postseason history with a 40, 15, and 10 assist game. Joining Charles Barkley and Oscar Robertson, who are much older than he was whenever they did this at the time. So the fact that Luka has kind of taken over the entire bubble at this point, Luka Mania has run wild on the internet, and for good reason. His body control is something that everybody in our office talked about. I'm like, why is this guy so good? Well, his body control is so good. He's gained the respect of the entire league. Kevin Love, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Lillard, Bradley Beal, Trae Young, D. Wade, John Morant, and many many others, as soon as they saw that shot, went crazy for him. It seems like he's well liked by everybody. We saw this situation where he was called a bitch-ass white boy, and then the next day there was an apology or whatever. And by the way, I enjoyed watching the internet go upside down for the bitch-ass white boy thing because of, the world that we're in and trying to bring everybody together as opposed to push them apart. So obviously whenever that happens, there's a lot of people who immediately want to go like, oh, see, can't say that. It's like, hey, actually, in relationships, in locker rooms, those types of jokes are made on a very regular basis. And to be honest, those types of jokes are potentially what bring people together more so than not. But in the world, it's not a good look to ever judge anybody by that type of thing. So I understand why there was an upfire or a fire started by the entire thing. But if you ever go into a locker room where there's a lot of people gelling from different races and things like that, those types of things are made fun of and poked at. I mean, if a white wide receiver smokes a guy, a DB or something who happens to be black, if a white wide receiver gets a deep ball, I mean, there is immediate conversation about that happening. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I would assume that the world made old buddy apologize to Luka, but I assume Luka took no offense to that throughout what he's doing. But I'm happy they made up afterwards to show the world, like, hey, that's not something we should do anymore. Okay, cool. But Luka on that sprained ankle, the game he played, and then it begs the question, if you were to start a franchise for the next 10 years, this is classic sports talk, what do you do? Who do you take? And I think I would have gave the answer of Zion. Immediately before yesterday, I would have said Zion Williamson's my guy, always has been my guy. But I have no clue what's going on down at the Pelicans. They might ruin him, to be honest with you. Guy doesn't play for whatever reason. They say he's hurt, the whole thing. Maybe he'll have to get out somewhere to really, flap his wings. I hope he does because that guy is explosive. He's a good guy. He seems to be liked. He loves the game, all that stuff. So I hope they give him a chance. But if you're looking at strictly, what have you done for me lately, which this show is a big thing, and you have to be on a daily. I think you have to pick the 21-year-old Luka, who seems to be changing basketball with his style of play. He's already knocking down massive shots. He's well liked by everybody, and he's telling his coach, "No, I'm not going on the bench." He's a dog. I mean, this guy is an absolute stud, and I'm thankful that we're getting a chance to watch him play the basketball.
And he's not afraid of anything. He's not afraid of taking the last-second shot. Kawhi Leonard was covering him for the most of the third quarter, who's considered the best defender in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard. He was taking him to the entire game. It's wild to watch him play.
Now, the Clippers, by the way, they got problems, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Playoff P. I mean,
playoff P is.
He had 7 points at half, no points for the rest of the game.
I think he's the first player in NBA history to shoot under 25% in the first 4 games or first 3 games.
Yeah, his last 3 games, he's got 11.3 points, 21% from the field, 16% from three-point line.
Did you memorize that, or were you just reading it?
Oh, I memorized it. It's actually on the inside of my glasses. I'm reading it right here, through there.
They're a problem. The Raptors have already gone on to round 2 in the Eastern playoffs. If the Clippers were to not get past the Mavericks, which, by the way, who's hot? Mavericks are hot right now. And that was out without Porzingis, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if the Clippers don't make it past, Kawhi would have left a champion team in all of Canada to go to the Clippers for star power and more weapons and to create a new legacy, all for naught when the Raptors make it without him.
And there's word coming out now that Kawhi actually wanted to partner up with Jimmy Butler, and he reached out to Jimmy Butler to come join him with the Clippers, and then they fell to Paul George. So I don't think Kawhi doesn't want to carry Paul George anymore, same way Russell Westbrook didn't want to.
Well, PG, I believe he did have an offer from Oklahoma City. He decided to go to the Clippers. So I don't know if Russell Westbrook or
Westbrook got traded either way.
Oh, so. Yeah. But I think at the time when he made the decision, I think Westbrook and Paul George were tight, I think. Like, Paul George was at his house, had a party.
They had a party. Yeah. They had that whole party at the club.
But you're saying that he didn't want to carry him anymore.
No, he didn't. Not at all. I mean, think about what Paul George does. He sees Westbrook win an MVP. Okay, fine. I'll go join Westbrook. He sees Kawhi win a championship. Okay, fine. Now I'll go try and play with Kawhi.
I think Paul George is very much like whenever he was at the Pacers, I got a chance to watch him, obviously, and meet him and everything like that. Whenever he wasn't the focal point, he was awesome. And I would assume if he gets cold a little bit, everybody's going to pile on him. But, hey, playoff P can come back and drop 42. I mean that is something that he could absolutely do.
Let's see it.
The Clippers are excited for that to potentially happen. He's obviously in a rough spot. The internet has been ruthless towards Paul George at the moment.
I think what the NBA has to love about this bubble is like Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Luka, Jason Tatum, Giannis, like all these young dudes are going off, and they like the strength of the NBA for the next 10 years is going to be incredible.
Well, and by the way, these young guys, when you're living in a hotel, the body can turn around quicker. Mm-hmm. We thought maybe the older guys with being able to handle adversity and distractions, maybe they're the young guys, the bodies just come right back. We'll be right back tomorrow with another show, 10 to noon. No clue who the guests are, but we can't thank you enough for wanting to listen on the radio. Luke is fucking unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah. Unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
He's the best part of the NBA. I honestly, genuinely think.
Well, we are very much a ride the wave
Skills.
of emotion. I mean, we do that, but he plays in such a different style than everybody else. It looks like he's running in slow motion.
Yeah.
But he's still getting past people that are so much, it would appear more athletic. It's awesome to watch. And he has a little bit of a stocky build, right? So he's kind of durable. And then the bounce back from the ankle is something that's like, oh, so he's got grit too. This some bitch got grit. That is just, I'm very pumped that he's there, and I'm a big fan.
It looks weird because when they do the pick and roll, a lot of guys come off hot, and he goes so slow, and he just puts the defender on his back and waits and waits and waits, and then he throws an alley-oop or he'll lay it in or he'll lob it up. It's nuts.
Hey, big leverage game for old Luka. Leverage Luka. Oh, Lukey leverage.
I'm sure he learned a ton from Dirk. And when Dirk was there, like, I can't even imagine how much Dirk taught him.
Well, and then also the thought that the Dallas Mavericks are also plugged in the European marketing department.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Big time.
Old Mark Cuban's like just raking in. He's just raking in money. That's why when everybody talks about the ratings and everything, he's like, who gives a fuck about the ratings? Got all of Europe buying these Slovenia guys. I mean, it's just, he's marketable. He's very good. Seems to be happy. Loves the game. And he's just stud. I am bummed about Zion, though, and Ja. I mean, Ja is unbelievable, but he's in Memphis. So who knows what's going to happen there, even though he got high. No offense to Memphis. We love Memphis. I'm just talking about the team has not been a team that's like, oh, the Grizzlies are going to be in their entire thing. What's going on?
I don't love Memphis.
What?
No. I mean, it's pretty fun, but the city is a dump.
Whoa.
Anyone who's been to Memphis knows that.
So Zion's what, 19?
Yeah.
Yep.
So he still has what, a potential 15 more years of basketball. Ja is what, 19?
20, I believe.
20,
1-year-old.
and then Luka's 21. Good for us because we're a young sports show.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have a chance here with these guys. I can't wait for it.
Tatum's 22, Jamal Murray's 23, Donovan Mitchell's 23.
Tatum, the Celtics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That
Tatum,
mic'd up moment was tough. I think they edited that to make him
He's-
look unlikable.
He's difficult. And the reports coming out of him saying in the locker room that he's sick of not getting the superstar treatment. It's like, dude, we'll win some.
Well, all these reports, though, they shouldn't get out if he's saying that.
True.
That's kind of what Ryan Clark was talking about with Earl Thomas. Is our guy on? Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, this is no longer the Pat McAfee Show. This is McAfee and Hawk. Joining us, ladies and gentlemen, AJ Hawk. What's going on? What's going on, man?
How you doing, man? How's it going? I know you've talked about your eventful weekend, but how you feeling? Are you physically all right?
I feel good. Yesterday was tough. I'm going to be honest. Yesterday was tough. Rolling out of bed there, literally rolling out of bed there. I couldn't sleep Saturday night. Obviously, there was going to be an impossible sleep situation on Saturday night after that entire thing. Couldn't sleep. Sunday, I wake up, neck sore, back sore, foot sore, leg sore. It was the first time in a long, long time that I felt like that, though, so it kind of felt good. I thought it would disappear quicker, but this morning I woke up, foot still sore, back and neck still sore, but I feel like I could potentially, I don't feel that bad. I did get dumped on my fucking head, though. You saw it.
That's good. I mean, that's a win. Like, with all the stuff that you were doing, you were flying around that thing. I think I told you afterwards, I'm like, the fact that you don't have a career-ending injury or you didn't tear an ACL or pop an Achilles, like, that's an absolute victory. Anyone can handle a little soreness.
Hey, when I'm doing that backflip through the air, I have I'm flying through the air right now. I'm flying through, because who knows what happens there with the legs, right? Like, I didn't even think about the potential, because you see that Luka ankle roll, by the way. What was that? He just went to plant and his ankle rolled. I'm flying through the air there, and there wasn't even a single thought of me landing and potentially nothing. Just not even. And that's what I always say this. Me being stupid is so good for me because I don't even think about that type of stuff. Like, the thought of that even happening doesn't even think. And then as soon as we get done, we get over the loss, AJ's like, I'm surprised you didn't fucking blow out your ACL. I'm like, whoa. I don't need that in my head, AJ. I don't need that in my head. I'm very thankful.
I mean that as a compliment, though. You know that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Oh, this dude, first off, I didn't know how anything was going to go. I'm sitting there watching after I got escorted out. And every move, I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, I thought it was over 9 times, too. Like, I really did. It was much longer than I expected, too. So I was worried about your air. Your conditioning was on point, obviously. Yeah, I think it was an absolute – I know everyone's been sucking you up on here today and on the internet, and that's a good thing. They should, because you had a great thing. But stop saying – how about people stop saying for the first match, for the first time. don't qualify it. Just give you the respect you deserve and say, hey, that was awesome. I don't care how. I don't know. Hey, you may have been wrestling for 20 years. I don't know. I don't have to sit here and give you a backhanded compliment and say, hey, for the first match, that was spectacular.
On our way out, right? We're leaving. We're all walking out, and like a couple like equipment people, like staff people were like, hey, for your first match, not bad or whatever. And I was like, oh, thank you so much, And then we keep walking, and then somebody else is like, hey, first match, not bad. And AJ's like, you want me to fucking slap these guys? I am tired of hearing that. I was thankful you were there in my corner, brother. That jawline was obviously something that captivated the internet for good reason, brother.
Well, it was it was a fun experience for me getting to sit there and watch. And I saw, when I knew it was going to be real, is after we get escorted out from all their guys, whatever, I get pushed out in the corner. And as I'm pushed off in the corner, I legit was still trying to scuffle. Like I wanted to have some kind of physicality with these guys, and we held ourselves back. But I'm getting pushed back. I look up. And I saw you mid backflip on these dudes.
No,
and
front
I saw
flip.
you like right there, but I was at a perfect angle to where I was lined up with your head. And the security guys was like, and then I instantly almost felt, I'm like, oh, like I got scared seeing you in the air because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Well, that's the same thing that happened when you were on TV, Wednesday NXT Live on USA Network, 8 p.m. Whenever we went back into the arena and everybody was walking towards us, AJ's like, oh, hey, we're about to fight these dudes? Hey, we're about to fight these dudes? The thought of you just turn, because you get pushed out of there, get kicked out, you turning around and just seeing me flying through the air, you would be like, what the fuck? Our guy's dead out there. I appreciate you.
I was sitting there with Darius and Nick, and I was like, dude, you guys, I'm like hitting them. Like, do you guys see that? Like, yeah, this is happening.
Well, we appreciate you coming. You're awesome. Everybody's a big fan. Getting a chance to hang out with AJ, by the way, in real life, because he and I hadn't got a chance to hang out in real life on a regular basis, so we're always via this. Getting a chance to hang out with AJ in real life the last couple of weeks, maybe my favorite thing that has happened from all this. AJ Hawk is better than advertised. Better than advertised in real life. I got a text from our friend this morning. I got a text from our friend. Yeah. Telling me it was a good time. He said it was awesome. And I was like, oh, thank you, man. Did you tell him to text me and tell me congratulations for what happened on Saturday?
I did not even know that he texted. I told you afterwards he reached out to me asking about, I think, your spray tan and
still
how
on,
went.
by the way. I can't get it off.
It does look, you still look. It looks solid. Whoever did that spray tan, you should go back because that one sticks.
Bro, I can't get it off. I can't get it. You were there. Everybody was at the house whenever I came back with this spray tan. I came fresh out of this machine. And you have to let it sit for a few hours. Like, you have to let it sit. This was the first spray tan that I've gotten that immediately upon arrival on my skin, I was just pitch. I mean, it was a different level of brown and orange that I had on my entire body. And I come back to the house. And I'm just standing there, and obviously I take my shirt off, as soon as I get back to the house. And AJ just looks at me and goes, are you going to wash that thing off? Or what? And I just sit around for 2 hours, couldn't sweat, anything like that. And then I wash it off, and the entire shower obviously becomes red. It's like a red color or whatever. I'm like, oh, did I lose it all? And then I go look in the mirror. It's like, no, I did not lose it. I did not lose anything. And then after the match, I thought potentially because of how much I sweat out there, I was expecting it to go quick. I looked in the mirror. I was like, oh, that has to be gone. And I looked at it like, nope. Then I take a shower. Then I wake up in Indianapolis the next morning. I'm like, oh, that tan's got to be gone. Nope. Take 2 showers yesterday. Then this morning I wake up. I'm like, it's got to be gone. It's like, nope. I think this might be permanent. I feel like I potentially got like the permanent marker treatment on a dry erase board here.
What's wrong with that? I mean, that's a good thing then, right? Would you be upset if you were just the rest of your life, this was you?
This color right here?
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's a very weird color. It's like tan for sure, but there's a little orange. It wasn't my standard spray tan place. I have a standard spray tan place where it knows my skin tone, and I like the machine. It and I work well. This particular one, a little bit darker, a little bit different scent, a little bit different flavor on the skin, and I think it could be here for a long. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Tans make me happy for sure, but I would choose my spray tan for the permanent spray if I was to get one. My place.
Hey, did you and the ref Drake? Did you guys go together? Because he is very tan as well. I don't know if that's natural or not.
Hey, Drake and I had some interactions during that match. I asked him a few times, like, where are these rules coming from? Like, what are you? I've watched wrestling my entire life. The things you were saying, I have never heard of Drake. Excuse me, but he is notoriously one of the best tanned humans I've ever seen in my life. He's from Indiana, by the way, big Colts fan.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he did everything. I watched that day. He was running around all over the place, backstage. Like, those dudes, they all work. Every person that is there has a job, man, and they're all over the place.
Never, ever stop, by the way. They never, ever stop. And I think he maybe drinks, 7 to 8 energy drinks a day. I think just watching that guy, his heart's probably just... Let's talk about Earl Thomas' situation, AJ. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. The Baltimore Ravens have been framing this as a conduct detrimental to the team, very much so. His personal actions have infringed on the team, like however they've been wording it, is basically setting up for a conduct detrimental grievance so that they don't have to pay him his $10 million that he is due next year. Now, he's been released from the Seahawks and the Ravens in the last 16, 17 months. Not in a good fashion either. But it's been funny listening to the Ravens obviously leak information that's bad about Earl Thomas so that their fans know, like, hey, this is a guy we want to get rid of, a la what David Sampson told us he would do whenever he's with the Marlins. Oh, this guy's late. He fights this guy. He fights this guy. They're like trying to get everything out there. The leadership council voted him down. They're trying to leak all this information out there so that the fans are like, yeah, we should cut him. We should get rid of him. But this leaves Earl Thomas in a very interesting situation, especially with the offseason that he's had, the Seattle Seahawks departure, and now the Ravens departure. How do you see this whole thing working out?
I mean, everyone assumes that Dallas is going to sign him, don't they? Didn't they free up some space last week with Tyron Smith, and they have room for him, I guess, if they need him. And you would think they're going to give him a shot, but wouldn't you want to really do your homework? I know McCarthy's even been quoted when he was asked about Earl, saying like, well, obviously we're always in the market for acquiring new talent to our team, but I always want to look at how they're going to fit in the locker room. And now after all this, that's the question, because the Ravens, Harbaugh's a no-nonsense guy. Like he runs a pretty tight ship over there, and they seem to have a pretty good culture going. And for whatever reason, Earl's attitude and how he carried himself just didn't seem to vibe with the rest of the team and the coaches. Obviously, it's not just this one fight and this incident that caused it. This was a long time coming. I just wonder, like, if we talk to people within the Ravens, like, was stuff brewing from the beginning, from like when the first day Earl got there? Has it always been kind of weird and this has just been growing and growing over the time?
The interesting thing is they always talk about being a Raven. And somebody in the YouTube comment section just mentioned that, but that's like one of Harbaugh's thing is like live like a Raven, like be a Raven. And I wonder,
the bird?
Yeah, like the bird. Yeah, quote the Raven evermore. That one as well. And also the wrestler back in the day, Raven. He used to wear jorts. He used to sit on the bottom. He didn't. Don't be that type of. I don't think the Ravens wanted to be that type of Raven. He was kind of like a gypsy who kind of floated around and didn't seem to care a lot.
Rooted a lot.
Yeah, but the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, there's a big thing like be a Raven. Like that's how a Raven acts. And I think that is why whenever you publicly state about that and talk about that, that's why whenever you start saying that he was late and he's gotten in fights in the leadership council, it's a lot easier pill to swallow for the fans, especially whenever you bring in Earl Thomas. And it's supposed to be this highly big-time signing to bring him in there, 7-time Pro Bowler. But I talked to Ryan Clark earlier this morning, RC, and he's known to be a hater, I guess, is what people say. But a lot of things he says is just dead true, just the way he delivers it. That system was not a fit for Earl Thomas the way he plays. It was a very different style. Last year, I think it reflected that. And I asked him, like, do you think Earl Thomas will be able to get back to form if he was to go to a place that has the same scheme? And he was like, he thinks that the top of the game passed Earl Thomas by, and that just kind of happens to everybody. So now you have to think, who's going to sign him if it's not the Dallas Cowboys? If Mike McCarthy's like, hey, I need a good locker room, and Jerry Jones like, hey, we need good players, that'll be interesting to see who ends up winning in that matchup or whatever. But then what team knows that he would be a good fit there on the field as well, especially after seeing what he did with the Ravens scheme? I mean, this is an interesting thing for Earl Thomas and what's going to end up happening to him.
It's going to be weird wherever he goes because he's going to be plugged into a defense playing with guys that obviously aren't the Legion of Boom like they were back in the day, where those guys kind of came up together. So they all kind of came up together and probably all had a really, really tight relationship. And what it seems like, it was very competitive, I know, back and forth with all of them. But he's going to be dumped in. He's the veteran coming into a secondary. And a lot of guys weren't in the league when the Legion of Boom was running. And now he's got to find a way to fit in and play within the scheme. I mean, that's what it seems like a big issue with the Ravens, like playing within the scheme and being accountable to your teammates. And I think the Ravens, whoever leaks all the information out, it makes it a lot easier, I guess, for the Ravens, the front office, when you let everybody know that the players are on board with this too. Like the players aren't out there fighting and saying, this is crazy. I can't believe we cut Earl Thomas, future Hall of Famer probably, and we let this guy go. Like you don't hear any of that coming out of Baltimore right now. Maybe we will. Maybe in the future, maybe the players are scared to death right now. For the guys that do support Earl, which there definitely will be, I guess they're probably scared of what you can say. You don't want to stand up there and stand up for a guy that just got cut, I guess, for conduct detrimental. So I think we'll know more in the next couple weeks. I mean, Earl seems like he likes telling people his side of the story, so at least we'll get his side.
Even some practice footage leaking.
I mean, you might as well just partner him back up with the Legion of Boom. Sam Fran goes after him. I mean, they have Sherman already. He can get back at Seattle, who we know he hates, and they run cover 3 too, which Ryan Clark was saying he's more of a middle of the field safety, and they have one guy roaming underneath.
If I'm that defense, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're not bringing in anybody that could potentially mess up what we got going on over there in that defense side of the ball, right? I mean, that is because even Sherman even said that. He's like, hey, when he gets back on the grass, he's going to be a problem. Sherman wasn't like, hey, we should try to get him here. Yeah. Like, if I'm the Niners and I'm that defense, we have something very special right now. Now, I don't know their safety situation. I don't know their roster as good as they should, but I would assume that the Niners defense is like, let's not.
We're good.
Yeah,
don't change the recipe.
Not that you wouldn't. Now, I'm not saying that he would be bad everywhere he goes. Maybe, by the way, there is some situations between Earl that are outliers with the Seattle Seahawks and with the Ravens that are just like one-off beefs, you know what I mean? But if I'm the Niners and that defense did what it did last year, the last thing I'm doing is potentially bringing in a vet to fuck up anything that they got going on.
We all know that fights happen all the time in practice and stuff like that.
All the time.
How often do they happen with two guys on the same side of the ball?
AJ, you would have to answer this more than anything. I'm not fighting Matt Overton, a long snapper. So this seems like this would have to be you. I feel like there's a lot of yelling, bickering that potentially happens, but not anything real, right?
Yeah, usually not real. It comes to the sideline all the time. Like you take your 3 or 4 reps, say the ones take 3 or 4 reps, and you have a disagreement with somebody, or guys in the secondary have a disagreement on a blown coverage. Yeah, that'll come to the sideline. They may get a little heated. It very rarely ever gets into an actual fight. Players will break that up because you don't want defensive guys fighting defensive guys. You don't want offensive guys fighting offensive guys. That's what I was surprised about when I watched this clip that Earl put out at first. I'm like, because I didn't hear anything of who he fought, what was going on. And then I watched the clip and I'm like, wait, he's fighting his other safety? He's fighting his buddy next to him like that? That's pretty rare. Like, I don't know. You have disagreements with guys next to you. Like I said, I'm a linebacker. We may have disagreements on how to fit something or whatever, but man, I can't remember seeing a position group of 2 guys coming together and fighting. It's always like, hey, D-line fighting the O-line, linebackers fighting the fullbacks, the running back, things like that.
Those are awesome, by the way, those fights. And it's always a regrettable decision by the people that get into the fight. Always.
So tired afterwards.
So tired. And then the coaches love it. They're like, oh, you got energy, huh? Oh, you got enough energy to fight? That must mean our practices aren't long enough for our. And everybody's like, no, practices are good. Practices are good. But I forget, there was one year, I think it was when the regime change happened where there was a lot of fights. I mean, there was a lot because I think a lot of people saw a lot of opportunities. So there was a lot of adrenaline and things like that. There's fights, by the way. 2 naked dudes fighting in the locker room. I've seen a couple times. I mean, fights
in the shower. You ever see guys start to fight in the shower?
Oh, yeah. In college, there was a massive melee in the shower at one point. It was wild.
How do you get them in a melee in the shower? Like, I've been around a few times when guys have started to fight in the shower, and the one thing I always thought of was, I will never, ever break this fight up.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping in there.
There was a hero in the NFL. There was a pretty noted fight that our friend Pat Anger got into where it was fresh out of the shower in locker room in towels.
Oh, God.
Something happened. Obviously, towels end up laying, but this was a real fight happening. And then somebody got involved. They were in a towel. They were trying to break people up. So there was an entire, I mean, it was just a comedy of errors happening. And then there was a real fight that happened down there. And then obviously, anytime there's a fight that doesn't happen on the field, it becomes a big deal. Okay, coach has to talk about it. GM has to talk about it because now it's carrying outside of the lines of the football field and stuff like that. I've seen a few naked brawls, and it's been awesome. The melee that happened in college, though, in the showers was wild. I mean, it was one group versus another group, and it was very obvious that they were going to brawl at some point, and all it took was just one person. And then I don't think I was in the shower at the time. No, I wasn't. I was in the but that thing carried into the locker room, and there was not even a thought of towels happening. It was like, oh, my God, what is going on? Who's going to break that up? And everybody just kind of sat back and waited for everybody to fizzle out and get tired, which I assume happens in most fights. But Earl Thomas fighting his own guy, I think, was something that was a little bit surprising.
Well, and Ryan Clark touched on this a little bit earlier, but how rare is it for a younger guy to be going after like a very accomplished veteran like that? Like, It seems like anytime you see that on like Hard Knocks or whatever, it's like, okay, well, that guy's going to get cut.
Yeah, like, because you're told as a young guy, like, hey, be in the hip pocket of the older guy. If there's an older guy at your position, go ahead and just follow them around, see what they do, and find out why they've been around a long time. Because if you're around a long time, that means you're rich, that means you're successful, and that means you're probably doing the right things. So the fact that in his own room, a younger guy is already at the point where he wants to fight him, I mean, I'm very intrigued by that. I'm very, very intrigued by that room and the toxicity potentially of what's going on and why they're leaking the information that the leadership council wanted him out there. He was late for meetings and all that stuff. They had to kind of paint that picture that, hey, this guy was not fitting in with us. And who knows if he'll fit in anywhere then, I guess. He's had a wild offseason, but boy, he was fun to watch play whenever he was balling.
Not to go back to the shower brawls, but how the hell did that end if nobody was breaking it up?
Well, I think a couple of people within the fight decided it was enough. Like
a couple guys get aroused or something, and that just ended quickly.
Well, what the hell's poking me?
I didn't see any. I didn't see. Pat Anger did say he thought the one thing that was hitting him had an elbow on it. There was a couple of that, but those things are always very interesting. For me, my job anytime a fight happened was put helmet on, show face. Just because if there wasn't, like our West Virginia team, by the way, there was a lot of other teams that wanted to fight us. In like before games, like at the 50, there was always something that seemed to happen. And I will speak for, we never started it. Like we literally never started. But boy, the guys that we had on our team though, if you wanted something, I mean, we had guys that were ready for it. And I was always like, hey, this is going to be on camera somewhere. Helmet on. I don't want to look like a bitch in film. Here we go. Helmet on. I'll get right into it. Sometimes I'll stay on the outside, but normally I try to get in the front line. And then you just grab somebody on the other side, and then there's like a push away. In practice, same thing. During a game, there was a fight that happened over by the kicking net. And I'm sure we could find a clip somewhere. Over by the kicking net, a scuffle comes over. I don't have my helmet on. I'm literally sitting all by myself over there by the kicking net. Helmet goes on. Helmet goes on the head. I go get in somebody's face, and I think I get pulled back. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, this is going to be on a camera somewhere. I want to let everybody know that I am not a bitch, and I am about that if you need. I am here if we are fighting. I am in. But those are always so interesting, watching those things kind of boil over, because it's such a combat sport. And in practice, you're like, hey, we're all on the same team. It's like, but in training camp, are we on the same team? Because that guy might be playing for somebody else. And I feel like he's being a little bit, we're all at this level, and this guy's doing a little bit too more. And all you need is somebody to get, I don't know, be a little tired.
Just maybe extra push, like an extra push on a guy when you're tired on the fifth play of a team drill. That'll set the whole team off. Like just the O lineman, just being a dick and kind of push him in the shoulder right as the whistle, after the whistle or something. It always is a buildup though. There's very rarely does a fight happen where there's no beef at all. There's no like underlying resentment or whatever, and then two guys just go at it. Like there's always something that happened that's been building up for years at times.
There's always been not always, but I remember listening into like some defensive players walking out to practice, and it'll be like a new guy on the team, and it'll be full pads. And they'll give like a rundown of the guys on the offense aside that like, hey, this lineman right here, 60 blonde, is going to go hard. So keep your head out for him. This guy's going to do this. This guy's going to try to start something. And I was like, oh my God, like they're preparing for practice
scouting
here.
Report.
Like it's a full scouting report for like, hey, this guy's an asshole. This guy does this. This guy's pretty cool. He'll be good with you. It's because some of those younger offensive linemen, and it always normally, not always normally, that doesn't make sense, but it sure feels like the offensive line is involved in a lot of the fights. It sure feels like that because that is their thing, by the way. And they are a collection. And that's something in film where I just talked about me putting my helmet on, looking like a little bitch if I'm not in there. The offensive line room, if one offensive lineman gets into a fight and everybody else isn't helping, I would assume that night in film is going to be a long day for everybody in the offensive line because that is how they kind of survive. The strength of the pack is the strength of the weakest wolf, and that's really how they feel. I did nail it, didn't I?
You did.
Fucking nailed it, dude.
Yeah, well, I would say not even just like, let's say O lineman, one guy gets in a fight. Of course, they're absolutely one unit. They better be if they're any decent O line. They're gonna be like a big group of just meathead dudes that have their own language and they're just weird and different and they're awesome. Most all O linemen are awesome. They're a lot of fun. But if one guy decides to not even show face in a fight, that's going to have like a long, like an impact for a long time. That guy better never make a mistake in a game because I think guys will instantly, like they'll always remember that. It'll be 5 years down the road, like, yeah, he didn't come help me out in the fight though. I got with this D lineman. Like that's stuff that carries on. So next time there's a fight, so if you are that guy, I guess next time you just got to go out to practice and just fight the toughest guy on the defense, right? Is that the only thing you could probably do?
But
then your O-lineman buddy's like, I'm not helping you out with that. Dude. You kidding me? You're stupid. We know who to fight and who not to.
You remember that guy? He was the guy that didn't. He was the only one that didn't get in a fight with us whenever we were in training camp. You remember that guy? Yeah, I do too. Go sit by your fucking self. Got some breaking news at a Green Bay Packers training camp. Creed is being played at the practice.
Wow. Huge.
With home wide open. I like that. Also coming out of training camp for the Green Bay Packers this past weekend, Aaron Rodgers is on fire right now. I guess deep balls are in abundance. Deep balls are getting dropped into a bucket, and suck it signs are coming out from Aaron Rodgers to everybody. I love everything about this. Everybody was wondering how Aaron Rodgers would respond to what happened in the draft and everything like that. He's taken Jordan Love in as a mentee.
Apprentice?
An apprentice, a mentee. He's been being a leader over there. And it seems like, by the way, if at training camp, with all this COVID stuff happening, and we've gotten a chance to see how hard it is basically to even get into the practice facility, in training camp are long days anyways. The fact that Aaron has this energy and this spunk and this deep ball and this suck it and everything like that, this bodes well for Green Bay Packers fans. I don't know how they'll stop 186 yards before contact that happened in the NFC Championship game, but boy, I'm pumped for your guy Aaron Rodgers slinging the rock all the way around the field right now.
He must be feeling good. Like you said, he sends you a text this morning too, right?
Yeah, he did. He sent me
probably right before he went on the practice field and threw another couple bombs.
Do you think he also put Creed on the playlist? Do you think he was like, put Creed on?
I think he would definitely put Creed on the playlist.
I do take some real stock from that though. If he's running around doing this, okay, like that is energy levels are high. Okay, You're not like miserable in training camp. You're not just trying to get by. If he's doing that, he's happy, he's pumped, and you see the videos of him and Jordan Love, even though they're so small, it feels like, just like you said the day after, I believe, like, oh, Aaron's going to go on a warpath because of this. It feels like that's potentially what is starting to happen over here.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people responded. I said something about, he's going to win MVP this year, and a lot of people were saying how bad the secondary is, which is weird because the Packers secondary is actually pretty good. But how do they react to something like this? Obviously it's making them better because you're not going to go against as many guys who are as good as Rodgers. But
he might be going against twos. They might not have.
They did say that Devontae Adams was going against Jair Alexander, who is their one.
Yeah, so it's ones on ones.
But what is the secondary thinking in that situation? Like, does that even matter?
No, they get got. That's what practice is for. Like that happens. You know what I mean? Especially it's Aaron Rodgers. The secondary is probably pumped that they get a chance to go against Aaron Rodgers. If you're like a real competitive person, you're probably pumped that you're getting a chance because ones on ones don't always happen. By the way, that is not something that good on good is not something that happens. I assume it's happening a little bit more now because there isn't preseason games where you can go against other people, but good on good doesn't always happen, especially in full practices like that. One-on-ones, you'll get some stuff, and you always see you always hear stories about these younger corners who, oh, this guy wants to be great. He signs up for the one-on-one against the one wide receiver. Like, that's a big thing. So I would assume you're going to get got. That's the way it is, especially when you got Aaron Rodgers. But ultimately, Aaron Rodgers is making them better too, which is probably how they view it.
Absolutely, but you have to be once you get beat deep in practice by Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, in the back of your mind, you should be like, hey, I'm sure as hell glad this happens right now in practice when we don't even have open practice for the public to watch, and it's just us that see it. Yeah, is it embarrassing? Sure, but you got to understand who threw the ball, who caught the ball, how great these guys are. Like, hey, it's a lot better than happen on Sundays every week. I don't have to face this guy. This dude's on my team. And Ty, you might know better than I do, but I feel like Aaron's done the suck it in games before. Has that been caught on film?
No, he's big. This guy
does the belt.
He does the belt, but I feel like I've seen him.
Do it maybe once or twice. Yeah, for sure.
You know who does the suck it? Oh, I don't want to say this about him.
What's his name rhyme with?
Sminateri. This dude, I always wanted him to do it because every once in a while, like it'll be practice, but practice we're doing like we have to end in a field goal, like offense down 2 or whatever, and here we go. And Vinny, like you try to practice all the situations in training camp, and Vinny goes out and we hit like a game winner, a simulated game winner in practice, but it's real competition. Like it's offense is trying to beat the defense. Offense coordinator, defense coordinator, you each have one timeout. Like it's a real thing. Defense coordinator calls a timeout on Vinatieri or whatever in practice, So then immediately I start talking shit to the defensive coordinator. Vinny starts talking. Then he bangs it, and then there's just an immediate like chop to his thing. I'm like, Vinny, do that in a game. Vinny, how do we get you to do that in a game? He's like, get out of here, dude. Like, but whenever you're doing that, you got to. Like, think about the mindset you have to be in. You have to be just so happy. You have to be like
Having
that.
fun.
That is a real thing, because in a game, Vinatieri is immediately to this because it's like super business. And I would assume just whatever weird zone he goes to, this is just a natural reaction. If you're out there, I'm pumped about that. That's why everybody was like, your celebrations need to get dialed back a little bit. It's like, yo, I want to let you know, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen after I do something awesome, but I am pumped that it happened, and hey, I'm going to let it fly. I just want to let you know that. I wish.
Did you get fined? Is doing the suck it a finable offense in the NFL now?
I would assume.
Probably.
Yeah,
What does it say? Like, if I got fined for something like that, I would want them to.
Right.
I need a very detailed description exactly of what they thought I was doing.
It appeared as if Mr. Aaron Hawk was pointing at his right groin and his left groin simultaneously, hinting that he would like somebody to potentially look at his baby maker. And that is, my friends, conduct detrimental to the team. That is what they would use, that conduct detrimental to the team line, and just get you for 15, 20K for that, I would assume.
Well, the league will find you. I mean, I guess your team's not going to find you, but the league, it probably is 20, 25 grand now.
Oh, yeah. James Harrison was getting like 50, 60 grand for what?
He tried killing a couple
he had
guys.
$200,000 in fines in that CTE season where they're like, no more hitting at people. And James was like, I only know one way, bub. Bang, bang, bang. It's insanity.
You know, it's a good example when you bring up James Harrison. So, I don't know if you even remember. He was on the Bengals for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, James was on the Bengals for a season. They played a 4-3, and James was playing like outside back, like a Sam backer in a 4-3, which he's an outside backer in a 3-4, which is he's basically a stand-up DN. That's what he does best.
Can we do a little education right now?
Yes.
Sam backer, strong side linebacker. Not inside, strong side linebacker. Strong side is
The side of the strength,
which would be the tight end, right, on the offense.
Yeah, depend. Most defenses, yeah. It depends. Different coordinators. Like Dom Capers, we always the strength of the defense was always the passing strength. Some people say the running strength, so we'll go to the tight end. But yeah, there's other calls that are you make to the tight end. Can
you just fucking simplify this for people?
Goodness gracious!
I can't. I got too many schemes in my head. Too many things coaches have said to me that I'm like that I've tried to simplify for years and years. And I try to ask them to simplify it, and I can never seem to get a proper answer. So I regurgitate it poorly as well.
Okay, so the Sam backer is the one that's on the strong side of the defense, which is in replicate of the offensive strong side.
Yeah, usually on where the tight end. Sam's always usually to the tight end, and he's like an overhang player, kind of on the line of scrimmage. But the thing is now in a 4-3, the Sam is never in anymore. Like you can play he's only in if you're in a base defense. So when James was in Cincinnati, he didn't play a whole lot of snaps. Like they didn't have the right position for him. He wasn't in the right spot really. He was there for a year, and then I think he went back to Pittsburgh after that, and he ended in New England. And he still was really, really good after that. But people could have easily written him off when he was in Cincinnati and be like, "Look, this guy can't even get on the field for the Bengals. What's going on?" I'm like, well, no, he's playing out of position here.
This is like Earl Thomas, right? The scheme for Earl Thomas was not good for Earl Thomas. Ryan Clark doesn't think that Earl Thomas will be able to get back to form, but if he can get back into a scheme that accentuates what he does well, that's probably good news if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Strong side!
Left side!
Strong side!
Left side!
Strong side!
How would you describe the strength of an offense?
I don't know. I just watched the mic go like this, and then I see the Sam go to that side. Or like this, or like this, or like this,
hey,
or like
that's
this.
what you should do. Simplify, man. You just got to learn why he's doing this or this, and then you'll know it that much better.
I just thought it was tight end. I always thought wherever the tight end's lined up, okay, that's a strong side. Here we go. Sam's going over there.
It is for a lot of teams. It is.
It's not Tom Capers.
Just not Tom Capers.
Yeah.
Well,
arms
because
sometimes.
you think about how confusing it could be, Pat, if you said, okay, hey, the tight end is going to be, that's the running, the strength in the run game, but wherever the majority of the receivers are, that's where the passing strength is. So you can't have like a passing strength and a running strength each play because you set that to you set your front always to somebody.
So you kind of, is that the Colts?
No, I believe it's college.
Oh, okay. And in college.
Yeah, see, there's the Sam. Little overhang. He's in a 2-point.
And that's because the fullback is offset there as a tight end, a little bit of H-back setup right there.
So the question is, if that fullback goes into motion to the other side of the formation, does that Sam run with him?
And if he does, that means they're in man, right? Not zone.
Yeah, he's going to bump that. There's another, well.
Look at you trying to figure out this fucking defense.
No, that's a 3-4, though. You're showing a 3-4. It doesn't work.
So that graphic's wrong right there.
I mean, there's a Sam. You can technically call a guy Sam in a 3-4, which there is, but yeah, James was playing a 4-3 Sam. I do not blame whoever pulled this up at all.
But I think we just made it worse for everybody that was watching.
Yeah,
a little more confused
everybody.
What do you got today, AJ? Anything awesome?
I don't know what's going on.
Fly around.
What about you?
Wow, I got to work out. So I had my cheat day. Did you see my cheat meal yesterday?
I did. Did you eat all of that?
I'll tell you what. I put a hell of a dent in. I should have taken a picture, but my lady and her dad were also there helping. So if I was going to take a picture, I felt like I would have had to preface like, "Oh, my lady, my wife, and her father are also helping because the Indy 500 happened." And I decided to just fucking back out of it. But I put a healthy dent into that thing. And by the way, the Domino's, I don't know if you can see them. The Domino's lava cakes were also involved in this thing. Those are the greatest delivery dessert that you can possibly get are the lava cakes from Domino's. The pizza was good, okay, average, whatever, below maybe. But the lava cakes from Domino's are fucking next level.
I didn't know they had them. My kid, that's good to know. My kids love that.
Oh,
Jesus.
AJ,
welcome to the modern world.
I mean, seriously.
If I order Domino's, I order pizza. I usually don't ask them if they have.
That's what I did, AJ.
Exotic lava cakes for me to have.
The lava cakes are so
Scroll
good.
to the bottom, my friend.
Foxy has never had a lava cake in his life till what, a year ago or something?
Yeah, until you guys introduced it to me.
The first lava cake Foxy had was a year ago and it was from Domino's. In what, Foxy?
It's the greatest dessert you can order from any place of all time.
It is unbelievable. Even if you want to get a little ice cream in there.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I did yesterday. Dairy Queen Blizzard, Oreo Blizzard, extra Oreo, please. And make it a royal, so there's syrup or there's hot fudge in the middle of it. I shut it down yesterday.
Was it worth it? Like at the end of the night, like was it all where you're like, man, I'm really glad I did this?
I took one sprint back into the kitchen at like 10:30, 11 last night just to get one last couple. All right, I'll do PF Chang's real quick. Let me get one piece of a pizza. Let me get a bite of a cookie here. And it was worth it, by the way. It absolutely was worth it. Because yesterday I was trying to do what I was trying to do during the lockout, because going into the lockout, I was in the substance of abuse program in the NFL, which means I was getting drug tested 8 times a month randomly, and I couldn't drink anything. I couldn't be seeing anything. I couldn't do anything. So I had to stop everything cold turkey. Now, there was that little run with spice I had, but after that, I had to stop everything cold turkey. So once the lockout hits, there's no more substance of abuse program. So I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a run right here, and I'm going to go so hard that I don't want it, because I think I had 11 months left on the other side of substance abuse program or whatever. And I thought that lockout, went 1 week. That thing went 2 weeks. That thing went 3 weeks. That thing went 4 weeks. That thing went 100 and some days. And I went on a run there. I was like, all right, I'm going to go so hard here that whenever and it happened. As soon as we got done with the lockout, I was pumped. I was like, thank God. I don't have to drink anymore. I don't have to do anything. I'm completely back to being. That's what I wanted to do with the food yesterday. And I think mission accomplished. I'm very excited for a salad today.
How are your guts feeling after that? I imagine you dropped a nuke last night.
Oh, yeah.
New toilet?
We took A-bomb Don last night. And then this morning, there's been something brewing here. I'm about to go in before the show.
Yeah.
I mean, the body is figuring it all out right now, because it had been a long time without eating something awesome. I mean, throughout my life, that has not happened on many of occasions. I like eating shit food. Everybody knows that.
The problem with doing that, too, after you've been on diet for so long, is you can only, your stomach is shrunk so much that you can only eat so much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like to think that my stomach isn't a little bitch. But, boy, yesterday it proved it was. It was. As soon as I put that pizza down, I felt something start groggling, and I was like, oh, it's the grease from the. Is it Domino's or is it all pizzas? I was thinking about ordering another pizza. I was like, maybe I don't.
Switch it up.
And then I went straight into the P.F. Chang's General Tso's chicken. I'm like, oh, now there's pizza and General Tso's cooking down there. And then I just went ahead and did it. Give me one of those lava cakes just to kind of marinate the whole thing.
Yep.
Oh, and then a sandwich. I went after it. AJ,
you had some weird Danishes on the plane right afterwards that you didn't even really want, and you took a couple angry bites and threw it back.
Well, the honey bun was unbelievable. The honey bun was unbelievable. That used to be my go-to, by the way. If we're going gas station treats as a child, I used to go honey bun. Then I would put that in the microwave 7 seconds. It's like you're living fucking high society, pal. Let alone whenever they put the glaze, not the glaze, the
frosting,
the frosting on top of it. That was a game changer there for a bit. But that other one I got was shit. So, I mean, I enjoyed the honey bun, but the other one, the cinnamon roll French toast yesterday, was the surprise MVP of the day. Wow. That one was right in front of me there. You saw the breakfast plate. There was a brunch plate in front of me there. Shout out to Sprite, by the way, getting it all down there. They did not pay for that, but that was the thing that kind of cooled the entire engines off down there at the bottom.
So are you going to have a cheat meal like once a week now, like The Rock?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure. Is that what The Rock does? If The Rock does it, I think that's what I'm going to do. What else does The Rock do, you think, to look like that? Just work out all day?
Were you upset? Were you upset The Rock didn't come at you on Instagram and give you a thumbs up or something?
Yeah, I am a little upset.
I think he still might. I think he still might do it.
Troy Aikman was like, The Rock has to like this. I'm like, fucking Troy did it, so maybe. Yeah. Troy Aikman.
You guys are your coworkers. He's a fellow professional wrestler.
Troy Aikman is, or The Rock?
Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, yeah, The Rock. TMZ, I was on TMZ last week, and they said, they're saying this guy is potentially the future Rock or something like that. And I was like, don't say that. Please don't say that. Right? That's quite a bit of pressure right there. And I wonder if his people relayed that message like, hey, there's this little Irish kid out in Indiana that they're calling the next you. So if he tweets, you just fucking act like that. And then that's kind of how it all went down. You know what I mean? Caucasian Rock.
I think he'll love it. You look good. I hope your tan stays for a while.
I'm worried about this thing never leaving. I would like it to be known that I am worried that this said spray tan that is on my body right now will not give up. This seems like the most relentless spray tan I have ever had in my entire life. I did a full scrub with the loofah thing, on the whole thing. And it just is not quitting. How
long did they tell you it should stay on?
A week, right?
Usually it's 4 to 6 days. It's normally 4 to 6 days, but it'll die off a little. I'm a spray tanner. I have spray tan before. When you're Irish and you live in Indiana and you get asked to go do something in Cali or something like that, okay, you can either go in there translucent or you can attempt to be a little tan, and I'm not above it at all. And then this thing, though, this is the most relentless I've ever seen, because normally it gets lighter as the showers go. This one has just almost gotten stronger. It's it's almost built a life of its own at this point. I'm like, damn.
It's probably how you took care of it, though. That's the problem. You walked in the house 9 p.m. shirtless, and I was like, where's your shirt? You're like, got spray tan, bub. Can't put my shirt on. So my immediate question was, so every person that goes in there and gets spray tan just walks out shirtless? Do the females do that too?
Yeah. Well, I said.
And Pat's like, I assume so.
Loose clothing. Loose clothing. If you are going to wear clothing, it has to be very loose.
Well, you say that, and then we were outside in the porch thing when Pat got back, and he started to walk out with food to your lady, and he's like, I can't be out here. I can't sweat. I'm going to mess this tan up. And he sat in the doorway for a while, and then he's like, I remember I was like, the fan's on. He's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then he walked. He walked from underneath the little covered patio, and it was like he got shot by a sniper. He's like, oh, it's raining out here. He's like, oh my god, dang. He's like, you got to be kidding me. He was so worried the rain was going to mess up the spray tan.
I thought I was going to
walked around flexing for the next 3 hours indoors.
I thought I was going to have drops on. I was like, oh no, this cannot happen. Today is not the day to have a bad spray tan. So I had to really take care of it, but. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe too much. You're 100% right. AJ, I got to go to the bathroom. We talked about my day yesterday. I can't thank you enough, again, for being in my corner in my first fight. I appreciate you for that. The boys appreciate you. Mm-hmm. And we haven't leaked the information about fall yet, but we will in the next couple of days. I thank you for that as well.
Awesome. Can't wait, man. Thanks for having me there. It was an honor to be there. I don't know a whole lot about wrestling, but I respect the hell out of all those people that worked there and the wrestlers. Everyone's super cool.
Everyone's super cool, working their asses off too, and I think we put on a hell of a show, even though I took an L. Aside from that one, I'm still an undefeated wrestler. For myself, AJ, all the boys here, we can't thank you enough for watching. It's been McAfee and Hawk, the greatest sports talk show on the internet. Cheers, that's the show. That's the show. That is the show. That right there, what we just talked about, that was the end of the show. Hey!
From 1 to 2 Eastern Standard Time. So come on down for a mental vacation with the boys on YouTube Live. It's McAfee and Hawk. It's McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk. AJ used to tackle quarterbacks, and he's a Rust Belt kind of guy. That's the punter of the decade for the 2010s, kicking Pierce missiles to the sky. It's McAfee and Hawk. McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk. It's McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk.